Hello and welcome back everyone, we Weeb Online, and today I'm gonna continue the story What If Naruto Inherited the Powers of Minato and Kushina Part 2. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up, and to watch more videos like this, subscribe to my channel and turn that bell notification on so you never miss an upload. Now wasting no more time, let's begin.
Naruto, it's not healthy for you to keep what happened to you bottled up. If you truly want to become a successful shinobi, you're going to have to learn to open up a little, Inoichi said with a frustrated voice. It was Naruto's third and last appointment to get rid of the last bits of the wall. Inoichi was worried at first that he had let the Kyuubi have power over the poor boy by accident, but his worries were unfounded. If Naruto said that nothing strange had happened since the wall started to fall apart, the Hokage would let Inoichi keep taking it down. Inoichi knew this was his last chance to get Naruto to come in on his own. Naruto might have gone to his appointments even if the Hokage told him to, but that didn't mean he did. Naruto was very likely to shut down, even if they could get him in the same room as them. That meant this was his last chance to get Naruto to talk while the boy was still willing to be there. At this point, Inoichi would be happy if Naruto just told him what his favorite food is. This again, I told you before where you can shove your concerns about my mental health. Plus, ninjas are supposed to be mistrusting ya, idiot. Naruto said back. He was sick and tired of this guy's questions. There was something bad that did happen to him. In fact, terrible wasn't even close to being able to describe what had happened because he didn't have the right words. Naruto didn't get why he wouldn't just shut up and let the dog sleep. That time was over, and he didn't want it to come back. Inoichi got a tick mark on his forehead when Naruto came back. But he knew that Naruto didn't have anyone to teach him manners or how to be a gentleman, just like he didn't have anyone to teach him. Inoichi was known for having a good heart, and a man who didn't act like a gentleman annoyed him the most. He took a deep breath and said, yes, ninjas are supposed to be sneaky and not trusting, but their life is hard. They need to open up to someone or they might go crazy with guilt or sadness over what that person did to protect their village. It's what psychiatrists in my clan are for, Inoichi said in a serious voice. We help ninjas deal with those messy feelings so it doesn't get in the way of their duties, Inoichi said. Inoichi had to convince Naruto that if he kept everything inside, his feelings would come back with a vengeance sooner rather than later. I told you I'm fine, Naruto snapped as he stood up. His eyes got harder, and he unknowingly put his body in a fighting stance as if he were going to attack Inoichi. Minato had said the same exact words and taken the same stance many years ago, which shocked Inoichi with wide eyes. Backwards look, Minato, you killed an entire army in an instant. You can't be okay, Inoichi yelled at his friend. Minato had just used the Hiraishin Jutsu for the first time last week, so everyone knew how powerful it was. As a yellow ghost, he had killed every Chunin, and Genin without showing any mercy. People would smile and wave at Minato and offer him discounts. Sometimes, fathers would beg him to marry their daughters, but that stopped when they felt the wrath of the Red Death. But none of them could see what Inoichi saw. He saw through Minato's shy but sure of herself front for the public. He saw the anger and self-hatred instead of the silly smile and carefree attitude. Everyone thought Minato had made a great jutsu that didn't need nearly as much chakra as other S-ranked jutsus did and had only a mild side effect of making people dizzy. But Inoichi knew that using the jutsu in the way Minato did had bad effects on the mind. Even though the jutsu wasn't hurting Minato physically, it was making him feel bad. Inoichi didn't think Minato was cut out to be a shinobi because he wore his heart on his sleeve for everyone to see. This was one of the things that made him so great. But it was also the reason he thought he should never use Hiraishin in battle again. Minato couldn't handle the fact that he was turning into a killer. The first time he used it, he killed over 100 shinobi ninja, and more would be wanted. By the end of the war, Minato could have killed thousands. Don't worry, I told you I was okay. Not a big deal. It was easy for Minato to lie to his friend because he didn't want anyone to know how guilty he felt. Not even Kushina could know. But Minato was sure she already knew. He couldn't sleep at night because he kept seeing himself killing shinobi like they were grass. He had killed so many of them, even Genin. He shook his head and said, Minato, you're not okay. They would either be psychopaths or people who don't care about anything, and we both know that you're neither of those things. If I can't help you, Minato, tell Kushina about it. Inoichi begged his friend. He was scared that this kind of jutsu would turn someone like Minato into a heartless killer. He shook his head and said, I told you I'm fine, Inoichi. Don't keep asking me to talk about something that isn't a problem, Minato said, acting careless. He shook his head again and said, Minato, you need. Minato snapped, drop it, Inoichi. He was finally letting out his anger that Inoichi wouldn't let the matter drop. Inoichi had turned his body to the side, which was the position he used when he was about to attack someone. Inoichi was shocked when Minato yelled at him. He had seen Minato look this angry so few times that he had a few fingers left over. Sorry about that, Minato said with an awkward laugh as he rubbed the back of his head. Since I didn't get enough sleep last night, I'm a little cranky. He said sorry while berating himself in his head for getting mad. Inoichi gave a blank look, and Minato left. Well, I have to go train with Obito and Rin, so see you later, Inoichi. I'm gone in a yellow flash, he said. Flashback is over. Inoichi blinked a few times to get rid of the memories of his dead friend. He began, about to tell Naruto that keeping everything inside was bad for him again, but Naruto left while Inoichi was thinking about something else. That little, Inoichi growled underneath his breath as he sprinted towards the door. Inoichi ran into the flower shop just in time to see Naruto walking out the door. Naruto, he yelled, and the boy dropped his shoulders and sighed in anger. There's something I don't want to say. Put it behind you. He didn't even bother to turn around as he said it. After some thought, Inoichi finally said, okay, you don't have to say what happened in the room, but at least say something. It doesn't matter how little, Inoichi begged, trying to make up for the mistakes he had made with Minato. Inoichi didn't understand how Naruto was able to sigh like an old man who was tired. Flashback. Be aware of the graphic content. Please don't make me go in. Naruto screamed in complete fear. You beast, get in the cage. One of the Chunin yelled and then kicked Naruto in the ribs so hard that he lost his hold on the edge of the entrance. Please, stay away from me now. I just want them to stop, Naruto begged with tears in his eyes. Shut up, you crazy person. Let's see how many screams you can make while I give you so much electricity that lightning would be jealous. I said this as sparks started to fly from his fingers. Flashback is over. With a 1,000-yard stare, Naruto looked out the door as memories came flooding back. He said in a flat voice, I hate cages, and then he left Inoichi, who looked worried. People were staring mean looks at Naruto as he walked through the busy streets. It was almost 3 o'clock, and Naruto was on his way to the academy to see Hinata. He had been kicked out by a teacher for not paying attention, which was kind of a valid reason this time since Naruto had been loudly snoring at his desk. When he got to the academy, everyone was being taken home by their parents or caretakers. Naruto felt sad that he didn't have anyone to go home to or with, but that feeling went away when he saw Ko-Tem leading Hinata-chan home. Ko was keeping a close eye on Hinata because she kept running away from him every day. Being around her was making him nervous. As soon as he took his eyes off of her, she disappeared to train with Naruto. He didn't hate or dislike Naruto, but he didn't think Naruto was good enough to be friends with the Hyuga heiress. He couldn't figure out why young Hinata liked being with him so much. When Hinata caught her playing with a 4-year-old Naruto, she told him, he makes me really happy. He scolded her and told her never to hang out with him again, but she didn't listen. That was before anyone thought she was not good enough. She started to seek out Naruto more often as it became clear that she wasn't good at her clan's style. He had caught her sneaking up on and following Naruto around a few times. At first, he was shocked by her stalker-like behavior, but he quickly understood why she did it. Because she was being trained so hard, Hinata didn't feel safe at home, but she did when she was with Naruto, so she followed him around. Heaved a heavy sigh and rubbed his eyes with the palms of his hands. Hinata-sama, you really need to stop running off. Ko began, but his words fell short when he opened his eyes again and saw that he was by himself. Damn it. Naruto led Hinata through a maze of alleys while having a huge grin on his face. That was so easy. Yes, he told his friend, and Hinata smiled and agreed. Usually, she would have to borrow Naruto's prank supplies to get Kotem's attention, but this time they took advantage of the situation and ran off together while Kotem was distracted. Naruto looked out the end of the alley and saw that Ko wasn't there. He then led Hinata into the markets and asked, "So what do you want to do today, Hinata-chan?" He asked while putting his hands behind his head. Hinata's face turned a little pink when he smiled at her. She didn't know why, but she always did when Naruto smiled. Could we work on chakra exercises?" she asked. Her stutter had gotten a lot better, but she still did it when she felt bad about herself. Naruto said, "That sounds like a plan. I think we should go to that training ground we saw with those Anbu guys. We haven't been there yet." Hinata thought for a moment. She didn't think it was a good idea to train on an Anbu training ground, but she didn't want to let Naruto down, so she said, "Yeah. That sounds good." She lied as she took the lead. Naruto stepped back a bit as they walked through the crowded market. He was getting his usual looks of disgust, and even though he didn't care what the village thought of him, he didn't want Hinata's reputation to be hurt because of him. The Tem was trying to treat her badly, and Naruto hit him every time he did it. Of course, all of his fangirls started to treat Hinata badly too. Teachers stopped paying attention to her, and kids stopped playing with her when Naruto wasn't around. The fact that Hinata was being treated badly because of him made Naruto feel terrible, so he took a few steps back. That way, maybe no one would see that they were together, and her reputation wouldn't get worse. He was thinking about something else when he felt a hand on his shoulder. Naruto's eyes grew wide in surprise at the sudden touch. Hinata smiled at him and said, If you fall behind any further, you could get lost." She was a little surprised at how brave she was. He smiled back and said, "Thanks." He said this as he let Hinata lead him to the training ground. Naruto held on to the bottom of a branch with just his chakra. "I made it to the top," he yelled at Hinata, who was scrambling to stay above the water she was standing in. But when she looked up to congratulate her friend, she lost focus and was dipped in the water. Naruto jumped down to check on her, but she was already out of the water when he got there. "Hinata-chan, are you okay?" "I'm fine, Naruto-kun," Hinata said as he helped her dry off. "And don't stress. I'm sure you'll be okay," she said with a smile. She didn't fully understand why Naruto was so protective of her at times. It bothered her, like he was saying she wasn't strong enough to protect herself, which she knew she wasn't. But she also knew that Naruto didn't have any family other than the Hokage and Iruka-sensei, whom he rarely saw. That's why he would act overprotective of her, like when he broke Sasuke's arm for calling her a pale-eyed freak. He was protecting the only person he saw as family. In a happy sigh, Naruto said, "That's good." Naruto said, "Sorry for breaking your concentration." He knew that he was to blame for her falling into the lake. Naruto stood watch for Kotem while Hinata dried off. They had been training for a few hours and had decided to take a chance by staying in one place. There weren't many places with ponds that they hadn't been to already. Fire go. Phoenix flower jutsu. Water shut off. Water shock wave explodes. They yelled as they walked into the clearing. Both of them were wearing Anbu armor and were fighting. When Naruto saw the pond rise up and crash over them, it was too much for the fire jutsu to handle. He grabbed Hinata and used his body as a shield to keep her from being swept away. The water hit Naruto on the back, breaking a few ribs as it did so. The strong current swept them both away toward the two Anbu ninjas, who didn't know the kids were there. The two Anbu used two more water jutsus, but Naruto wasn't able to hear their names because he was still submerged. This caused the still submerged kids to change their course. Naruto didn't know where they were going, but he did know that he and Hinata needed air. His lungs were hot and screaming for oxygen, and he thought Hinata was even worse off. She hadn't had time to take a deep breath like Naruto did because she had her back turned when the big wave hit. He opened his eyes underwater, even though the salt water hurt them, and tried to figure out where he was. He was lucky that he did so at that very moment, because he saw the tree that was coming quickly. Focusing his chakra on his feet, he quickly dove underwater and hit the tree with his feet. Naruto would have been fine, but the current was moving him pretty quickly, and there was a lot of water pressing down on him, so it was no surprise that his legs broke in several places. Although Naruto wanted to grunt in pain as he hit the ground, he knew it would waste time and air. He held himself still until the flood stopped, and when it did, he fell to the ground. He hissed in pain as he hit the ground on his back, and Hinata falling on top of him didn't help at all. He was sure that one or two of his ribs had given out. Are you okay and Naruto-kun? Hinata asked as she crawled off Naruto, who was gasping for air and hissing in pain every time he did so. When she saw that he was holding his ribs and right shin, she asked. Yeah, I'll be fine, Naruto said with a weak nod. Hey Hinata-chan, are you okay? He pushed himself up and asked Hinata what was going on. He was vaguely aware that two Anbu ninjas were still fighting off to the side, but his attention was on her. She said she was fine and said, we should tell those ninjas that we're here. So we can leave before we get hurt more, she said, but Naruto didn't seem sure. He thought it might be safer to climb up the tree and wait them out, but Hinata rose and began to walk toward the fighting before he could say anything. The two ninjas appeared out of nowhere and started a fierce taijutsu match. Hinata loudly eeked when they appeared, which was a big mistake. As Anbu, they didn't just want to hurt their sparring partner, they wanted to kill or seriously hurt them. That way, they would get the most out of their training. Going all out made them feel like they were in a war zone, which was very helpful since they were Konoha's first line of defense and offense. But because they were both so focused on the fight, they were both acting on their battle instincts. They had been caught in ambushes before, so when they heard a sound that didn't belong in a forest, they reacted as they should have since they were supposed to be alone. Both of them shot kunai at the source of the eep, but they knew they were wrong as soon as the guns left their hands. It was too late to change anything, so they could only watch in horror as their weapons quickly moved toward a young girl. Hinata was scared as she watched the kunai come at her, one at her heart and the other at her eye. She felt like time slowed down to a crawl as she saw her death rush toward her. It was very different from the last time she almost died. That time, she wasn't scared because she was too worried about Naruto. Thinking about Naruto was more important to her than her own life. She was so scared this time because she didn't want to die yet. She was still too young and had so many things she wanted to do. She wanted to be friends with Naruto longer, break the evil seal on the Branch family, keep showing her father how far she had come, and be a big sister to Hanabi. But she wouldn't get to do any of those things because she was about to die. As a last act of fear, Hinata closed her eyes. That way, she wouldn't have to see the moment when her life ended. But time went by, and she didn't die. She opened her eyes slowly because she wasn't sure what to think. Had the kunai missed? Had she already died and was now just a ghost? Just an inch away from her eye and heart, the two kunai were held by two sapphire arms of pure chakra. When she opened her eyes, she saw the answer. When Hinata saw the strange arms, she stumbled back and fell on her behind. She then looked back to see where the arms came from. She saw Naruto reach out his hand and a second arm of chakra reached out from it. His arms were too short to stop the kunai at that point. In shock, Naruto watched as the two Anbu threw kunai at Hinata. He tried to get up and run over to stop them, but he wasn't fast enough and his legs were broken in several places, so he couldn't sprint. He didn't know how he used these strange chakra arms. He had put out his hand to try to stop the kunai with anything that would protect his friend, but it didn't work. Just then, arms of chakra burst out of his palm and stopped the two strikes. The arms began to fall apart, dropping the weapons to the ground. Naruto passed out from exhaustion. He had no idea what that jutsu was, but it was very hard on him. Do you know why you're here? You might have died. A woman wearing a cat mask spoke. She knew Naruto because she would sometimes watch over him when Kakashi or Itachi weren't around, and she also knew the Hyuga heiress. Then it hit her that she had almost killed the future head of one of the most respected clans in Konoha. She took a deep breath and thought about how much trouble she would be in without Naruto's strange jutsu. "I'm sorry, Anbu-san. We were training, but we couldn't get away when the fighting started," Hinata said, her stutter coming back a little because she was scared after her close call with death. "Hey kid, what kind of jutsu did you use?" the person wearing a boar mask asked. He had never seen that kind of jutsu before and thought it might be a Kage Genkai that he didn't know about. He honestly said, "I don't know," as he looked down at his hand in confusion. It looked at the two kids and asked, "Are you two okay?" He seemed fine to her, but Naruto was holding his ribs. Naruto nodded and said, "I'll be fine." For a 6-year-old with broken ribs, he was surprisingly calm. Then again, he did have a very high pain tolerance. "We're taking you to the Hokage," she said in a professional voice as she put her hands on Hinata's shoulders. Boar did the same for Naruto as they both shinned. Itachi fought a yawn as he walked through the gates of his clan. He and Kakashi had been on a mission to Kiri for a little over a week and were just now coming back. There were many little things about Itachi that made him stand out from the rest of his clan. The two guards at the gates gave him nods, and he returned them. He was aware that they were not Kami's gift to the world. He didn't think he was better than everyone just because he was a prodigy. In fact, he found it annoying when people went on and on about how great he was in battle. His clan wouldn't accept the fact that he worked hard to improve his shinobi skills, even though he was good at them. He was very angry that they used him to show that the Uchihas were better than everyone else. He tried to reason with his family by telling them that he wasn't special because of his eyes. Kakashi had become a Genin at 5, a Chunin at 8, a Junin at 12, and an Anbu at 13. He said that Kakashi had beaten him when it came to being gifted. He tried to show that you weren't special because of your blood, but they didn't listen. Itachi sighed as he walked home, ready for a nap and some of his mom's cooking. But when he got there, he saw Sasuke practicing the interceptor fist with a broken arm. He knew Naruto had hurt his stupid little brother's arm, but he didn't hold that against Naruto because Sasuke had made fun of Hinata and Naruto was very protective of the young Hyuga. On the other hand, Kakashi had been bragging the whole trip that his little brother had beaten up Itachi's little brother, so maybe he did have a grudge against Naruto. When Itachi woke up his little brother and said, "Hello Sasuke," Sasuke turned around in shock and said, "Itachi. How fun," he shouted and then put his arm around his big brother's leg. Itachi smiled at Sasuke. At times like these, Itachi could easily picture what kind of boy Sasuke would be if he wasn't so proud of his clan. His father seemed to make Sasuke twice as cocky because Itachi wouldn't stand for it. Sasuke was twice as cocky as a normal Uchiha and sometimes behaved like a psychopath. He wasn't a psychopath. He was just doing what his father told him to do to remind everyone of their place, below the Uchiha. Itachi had tried many times to show his little brother Sasuke that his father's teachings were wrong, but Sasuke would not listen. That didn't mean he would give up on his good cause. "How does your arm feel? Is everything okay now?" he asked, trying not to smile at Sasuke's angry face. "When I get better, I'll teach that jerk a lesson." As if he were doing something great and honorable, Sasuke spoke with courage. "Oh," Itachi asked with a small frown. "How is he not going to break your arm again? Why are you so proud?" he asked, thinking this was the best chance to get Sasuke to stop being so proud. Sasuke had been the rookie of the year for most of his first year at the academy. Every year, there was a dead last and a rookie of the year. Sasuke always stayed at the top of the class. Naruto was the dead last for most of the year. Now, Naruto was doing better in all the physical parts of being a shinobi, but he was getting straight zeros in all of his classes until recently. He was now getting much better grades, but even if he got hundreds in all of his classes, he still wouldn't be able to tie with next to last. Itachi thought that since the dead last had already beat Sasuke twice, he could finally persuade his brother of the truth. Sasuke got red and said, "He cheated." Sasuke lied, and Itachi smiled at him as if he knew. "Is that true?" As Itachi told Sasuke, "That's not what I heard." He was telling him that he knew the younger Uchiha was lying. "I heard you picked on little Hinata and shoved Naruto when he told you to stop." When Naruto didn't push you back, you shoved him again and kicked dirt into his eyes. Then you tried to do the same thing to Hinata while calling her names that were mean. Naruto then grabbed your arm and told you to say sorry. Naruto gave you another chance after you said no. Once more, you said no, and Naruto broke your arm. Itachi said in a sad voice, "It sounds like Naruto didn't cheat at all. If anything, you cheated when you kicked dirt in his eyes." He was upset that his little brother could be so mean. After trying to come up with an excuse, Sasuke just said, "That doesn't matter. The next time will be different." He shook his head. Itachi asked in a serious voice, "No, it won't. The next time you try to fight Naruto, it will be the same or worse." Do you know why? The way his brother spoke made Sasuke look a little scared. He hadn't heard Itachi talk to him like this before, and he didn't like it. "No," he replied. "Because Naruto trains harder than you," Itachi told him in a serious voice. "You will lose every time you fight him." It wasn't true. Sasuke shook his head. "But I'm a Uchiha and he's an orphan. No matter how hard he trains, I'll always be stronger," Sasuke argued, no longer scared of Itachi's tone. "Did being a Uchiha stop Naruto from easily breaking your arm? You will lose every time you fight him because, contrary to what your father said, being a Uchiha does not make you strong. You may be better at some things than Naruto, but that will only get you so far. I know for sure that Naruto trains harder than half of the ninja in this village, and some of them are Junin as well. That's why it doesn't matter whose blood you have. Hard work always pays off more than talent," Itachi said, finishing his speech, which was a bit long for him. He looked up to his brother more than anyone else, but Sasuke had always rejected his brother's ideas because he had never seen proof for them. Itachi told him that he was so strong because he was a prodigy, but how was that proof that Dad's ideas were wrong? Itachi was a Uchiha, and he was strong. When Itachi told him about a man named Kakashi who was stronger, he didn't believe it. He knew that Kakashi had a Sharingan eye, which meant that having the Uchiha's special eyes made you strong. He was only thinking about it now because his broken arm hurt so much. He still couldn't figure out how an orphan could beat him, a Uchiha, but Itachi was now explaining it to him. Itachi tried not to smile again when he saw Sasuke thinking about what he had said. He was glad that Sasuke wasn't ignoring him like he had done before. He didn't know if Sasuke would listen, but at least he was thinking about it. He turned toward the house with Sasuke right behind him and said, "Let's go see if Mom has anything to eat." Naruto and me. The assistant to the Hokage was startled when Naruto, Hinata, and the two Anbu showed up in front of his office. "Say hello to Anbu Sans. The Hokage is free right now if you want to talk to him," she said. Kat nodded to show that she understood, then went to knock on the door but Naruto opened it for her before she could. "Hey, hello. Someone cool brought us here to see you," Naruto said, making Bor wonder how big this kid's balls were. Not many people, including himself, were brave enough to call the god of shinobi an old man. Hiruzen looked up from a mission report he was reading and saw Naruto walk into his office. Naruto looked like the devil. "Ah, Naruto, what did my Anbu bring you here for? You didn't do anything wrong again, did you?" he asked. For Naruto, getting in trouble meant doing work. Before the cat Anbu answered, Naruto gave his fake grandfather a crooked smile and said, "We found these two on training ground 12, Hokage-sama. I was sparring with Bor, and these two people were almost killed because of it." Hiruzen took a deep breath and looked at Naruto, who looked shy. "Naruto, what were you doing on an Anbu training ground?" he asked. He rolled his eyes and said, "Hinata-chan and I were training Gigi." Naruto said, "You may be going senile if you couldn't figure that out." He didn't know what senile meant, but he knew it meant old. Hinata was in the room, which is why Naruto was acting like himself again. He never had panic attacks or anxiety problems when she was there, but it got really bad when she wasn't. "What a cocky kid," he told Naruto, "you should treat the Hokage with more respect." I asked Kami, "How does this jerk put on pants? How exactly did you find the training field?" Hiruzen asked with a big sigh. "They are very well hidden," he said, wondering if he should move some of the training grounds in case a child found them. Then he remembered that Naruto wasn't like other kids, so he needed to talk to the boy. Don't know. We were running away from Kotem when we came across a lake with some Anbu in it. Naruto said, I thought that since we hadn't been there before and it was an Anbu training field, Kotem would have a hard time finding us. He knew about the deal Hinata and her father made. Hiruzen looked at the cat and asked, you said they almost died. Explain that. Cat went into great detail about how she and Boar had been in a fierce fight and how Naruto and Hinata were caught in the middle of it. When she talked about Naruto's strange new ability, Hiruzen almost lost his pipe. At least a version of Kushina's ability seemed to have been passed down to Naruto. This surprised him because Kushina's ability had been unique in her clan. No one had ever seen anything like it, and no one knew why she had it. It was this strange but powerful ability that made her the next Jinchuuriki for the Kyuubi. Naruto, could you please show me how to do that? He asked, eager to find out if it was true. After nodding, Naruto put his attention on his hand and tried to feel what had made him use the technique again. It took a few minutes of nothing happening, but then it did. Without any help from Naruto, a blue hand made of chakra shook out of his hand. Unlike before, the hand was shaking, deformed, and completely unstable. Naruto had to focus very hard to keep the hand from falling apart. She was amazed by the skill that had saved her life, and then she looked at Naruto. She knew that he had saved not only her life but also her dreams. By stopping those kunai, he gave her a second chance to make her dreams come true, and she planned to make the most of it. Hiruzen took a deep drag on his pipe in shock. He was sure that Naruto would become a strong shinobi in the future. He looked disappointed as he slowed down his use of the jutsu. The first time he did it, it wasn't as shaky and felt more solid. He couldn't think of a reason why it was so hard now. But every adult in the room knew. While in battle, Naruto was one of only a few people in the world who would get stronger. They would adapt to their surroundings and use those things against their enemies. They would think of complicated plans without even realizing how complicated they were. Only Nadaime, Minato, and now Naruto were among the people Hiruzen had met in that group. Even though he was thrilled that Naruto fit that description, he had a small fear for the village. If Naruto ever decided to get back at the village for how they treated him as a child, no one would be able to stop him. Naruto had amazing fighting skills, was very talented, and had a lot of chakra. Oh, my, you're really impressive, Naruto. Hiruzen told the truth. Naruto might turn on the village, but Hiruzen was sure it would never happen because Naruto was naturally forgiving and kind. He wouldn't hurt a fly, well, unless Hinata was in danger. When the Hokage said that, Naruto smiled and said, thanks Gigi. Forgetting all about his earlier disappointment. Yes, the Hokage said, I'm not happy with the situation, but I had to talk to you, Naruto. He then looked at the two Anbu and asked, can you two make sure that Hinata gets home safely? He asked, and two people nodded their heads. Hi Hokage-sama, they all said at the same time, then led Hinata out the door. Before they left, Hinata left the Anbu to give Naruto a hug. Thank you for saving me, Naruto-kun, she said as she stomped on Naruto. Luckily for him, his ribs had mostly healed during the conversation. Since the white wall had been broken down, Naruto had access to the Kyuubi and its chakra, and it looked like he could heal himself better as well. He smiled and said, you don't have to thank me, I'll always protect you Hinata-chan. Because Kat had been trained as an Anbu for so long, her feminine side almost came out during the tender display. But she ended the moment by telling Hinata-san, we need to hurry. I'm sure your dad will want to know if you're okay, she said. Hinata responded with a nod and a small wave goodbye to Naruto. He looked at the Hokage and asked, Gigi, what do you want to talk about? The tone of his voice was less lively than it had been just moments before. When Hinata left, a lot of his cocky confidence went with her. He wasn't going to have a panic attack because he trusted the old Hokage enough to keep them at bay, but he still felt uneasy. Well Naruto-kun, I would like to talk about the progress you've made in recent months, Hiruzen said. He knew Naruto wouldn't like what he had to say, but it had to be said. When Naruto heard Gigi's voice, his heart skipped a beat. Was he not doing well enough? If that was the case, why was Gigi happy with his progress before? Was Gigi playing a joke on him? Naruto looked scared, but Hiruzen quickly calmed him down by telling him, "I'm still happy with your progress, Naruto-kun. But you're not going to like what has to be done," the Hokage said in a sad voice. Naruto wasn't going to like this at all. Naruto's stress level rose. "What needs to be done, Gigi?" Naruto asked in a weak voice, his mind filled with all the bad things Gigi might say next. When the Hokage said, "Naruto-kun, I'm afraid you have to retain the dead last position for the academy," he got the response he was looking for. "Why? Why do I have to be the last person? I hit Sasuke. My first year can be the best next year." "This wasn't what I thought it would be," Naruto complained. He was glad it wasn't what he was picturing, but he wasn't happy about it either. Hiruzen breathed heavily. "I know it is incredibly unfair and I have no doubt that you could be the rookie of the year, but it is simply too dangerous for you to do so." He really wanted Naruto to get back at the jerks who were bothering him, and he really wanted Naruto to win Rookie of the Year, but the threat of Danzo was much more important. Hiruzen had a problem with Danzo for a very long time. He used to call the man his best friend and biggest rival, but those days were a long time ago. Now he hated the man so much that he almost had him killed because of his root program. He let Danzo and his program stay because they were good for the village. Sometimes he had to ignore the fact that they were technically treasonous, but that was because he knew Danzo would never betray Konoha and would do anything to protect it. However, if Danzo knew how strong Naruto could become, he would do anything to turn the boy into a weapon. If he knew how talented Naruto was, he would definitely try to kidnap him and use him as a tool, even if Hiruzen told him not to. That could not happen. Hiruzen knew he couldn't ignore it and would have to kill his old friend. He would lose a dedicated ninja and the program that did the messier jobs that Konoha didn't want the program to handle. There was also a chance that Root might rebel or join forces with an enemy village. It was just way too dangerous for Naruto to get that much attention. "What do you mean it's too risky?" Naruto asked them. "There is a small chance that what happened with the Uchihas could happen again if you win Rookie of the Year." Hiruzen replied, "I have raised your guard, so it's not likely, but I would sleep better at night if I knew there was no chance at all, Naruto-kun. I'm getting stronger. I can keep myself safe." Naruto refused to give up. And Hiruzen agreed. "Yes, Naruto-kun, you are getting stronger, but you're not strong enough to defend yourself as well as Hinata," Hiruzen said, playing on Naruto's strong desire to protect to get the boy to agree. He knew Naruto didn't care about what happened to him, but Naruto would fight the Shinigami himself to protect Hinata. Naruto's face turned very pale. Was it possible for Hinata to get hurt because he was Rookie of the Year? "Can't you get those Anbu guys to protect Hinata-chan? To get the best of both worlds?" he asked. "Yes, I can," Hiruzen said as he smoked his pipe. "But there's a small chance that someone could get through. Like what took place with you about a month ago. When those Uchiha took you, Anbu was watching over you," Hiruzen told him. He knew it was a low blow, but it was best for the boy's safety that he be the last one. Naruto was about to throw up when he thought about those terrible things that were going to happen to Hinata. He simply could not let that happen. Naruto showed he got it by nodding. He didn't want to do it, but he had to protect Hinata-chan. "I'm sorry, Naruto-kun, but this is the safest choice for you and young Hinata," Hiruzen said in a sad voice. Naruto's sadness was almost palpable. "All right, Gigi. It's worth it to protect Hinata-chan. Have a nice day." Naruto said this before he left. The next day, Hinata was carrying a healing cream she had made on her way to Naruto's house. She remembered how Naruto's ribs had snapped when he caught her after she had fallen. She knew he didn't need it, but she had to do something because he had saved her life. The few people on the streets looked at her funny as she walked through the red light district, where Naruto lived. It wasn't every day that you see a real princess walking through Konoha's seediest neighborhood, after all. I hoped it was still early enough that Naruto hadn't left when Hinata walked up the stairs to his apartment building and knocked on the door. After a few knocks, she heard a loud, "I'm coming," just as the door opened to reveal Naruto in his training clothes. "Oh, Hinata-chan, how come you're here so early?" Do you want to come into my simple home? He asked her. She quickly pulled out the small vial and said, I made you an ointment for your ribs. Naruto blinked in surprise and took the vial. Thanks, Hinata-chan. I'm happy, Naruto said as he put the present in his pocket. I know you don't need it because. She paused and patted her stomach. But I wanted to thank you for saving me, she said with a faint blush as she thought about how Naruto had broken her fall and then saved her life. When Hinata told him about his tenet, Naruto smiled. She had handled the news very well. Backwards look, Naruto spoke in a shaky voice, terrified that the news he was about to share could end their friendship. Hey Hinata, I need to tell you something. Mr. Naruto, what is it? She asked, a little out of breath. They had just avoided Kotem again. Naruto took a deep breath and said, you know the Kyuubi. In the beginning, Naruto wasn't sure how to tell them that he had a demon sealed inside him. Yeah, Hinata asked, her face confused. The Kyuubi had something to do with what Naruto had to say, so the Yondaime killed it when it attacked Konoha, she replied. He took a deep breath and asked, what if I told you that it wasn't dead? Naruto asked hesitantly. He didn't want to do this, but Hinata-chan had the right to know. She was scared because her father had told her stories about the big fox and how it almost destroyed the village. If that thing was still alive, they were all in danger. What do you mean Naruto-kun? You mean the Kyuubi is still alive? She asked in fear, and her stutter got worse because she was scared. In a slow nod, Naruto said, the Yondaime couldn't kill him, but he could seal it in something or someone. He then waited for his one and only friend to respond. Hinata's eyes got even bigger when she understood what Naruto was saying. She was young, but she wasn't stupid. He sealed it inside you. Almost doubtful, Hinata asked, wanting to make sure she was right about what she had heard. At the sight of the seal on Naruto's stomach, she let out a small cry of distress. I just found out last night, but I get it if you don't want to be friends anymore. Naruto said sadly as he pulled down his shirt and avoided looking at Hinata. How does he fit in your front? Why? Hinata asked. When Naruto looked up, that was all she asked. How did a giant fox get inside of him? He then realized what Hinata was up to. She was telling him that she still saw him as a friend, even though he was a Jinchuuriki. I have no idea, Naruto beamed at her. End of flashback. Thank me not, I will always protect you. I will do it, he promised with a smile, making Hyuga blush. He also promised, I'll do my best to protect you Naruto-kun. Naruto smiled and asked, since you're already here, do you want to train with me? His question was met with a quick nod from Hinata. Try to keep up, he said this as he ran out the door. Late that same day, it was hard for Hinata to walk down the stairs so she could meet Naruto for lunch. His workout in the morning made her feel like jello, and she hadn't even done a third of what he did. She had no idea how he could be waving his arm at her while she was moaning in pain. Hinata-chan, hurry up. Someone else is going to take our place soon. He didn't sound tired at all when he said it. Hinata agreed and forced herself to move a little faster. It took Hinata a while, but she finally got down the steps and was outside by the swing. There was something she didn't want to see at the tree. Temu, why are you here? Do you want me to break your other arm? Naruto growled and stepped forward, making a threat. He didn't like Sasuke. He was a leader who made all of his followers avoid Hinata-chan when they became friends. Sasuke scowled and was about to respond, but he stopped himself when he remembered why he was there. I'm sorry, he growled, using a word that was almost foreign to him. He wasn't happy that he had to say sorry to two regular people, but he was trying to follow Itachi's advice. Naruto and Hinata both blinked in shock. That was definitely not what they were expecting. Naruto got over his shock first and asked, sorry for what Tem? Demanded he, not believing Sasuke at all. I'm sorry for being mean, Sasuke almost spat out because the words hurt him. We accept your apology, Hinata told Sasuke, giving Naruto a look to keep him from arguing. Naruto saw the look and told Sasuke, okay. He lied and said, we forgive you. He could never forgive someone who could have told people to hurt him. Sasuke gave a nod and turned to leave. Wait, would you like to be friends? Hinata asked, hoping that Sasuke would say sorry so that they could be friends again. It was hard for Sasuke not to laugh at the offer of friendship. Why would he want to be friends with the two weird kids in their class? No, I don't want to be friends with you. Sasuke pretty much snapped at Hinata, I'll just try not to be so mean. He quickly ran away when Naruto took a few steps toward him, ready to snap his other arm for talking to Hinata-chan that way. Naruto said, that was odd, as they watched Sasuke run away. Hinata agreed. She was a little bummed that she didn't make a new friend, but she was glad that Sasuke wouldn't try to pick on them anymore. All right, let's have lunch. He said this as he took out his lunch. So now that I'm a ninja, I don't have to hide my skills. The blonde boy asked. His shaggy, dirty blonde hair was almost shoulder length, and he had two bangs that framed his tan face. Each cheek had 3 faint marks that looked like whiskers. He wore a soft leather turtleneck vest that was tight on him, had no sleeves, and was usually unzipped at the neck. He wore black pants that matched and had white bandages around the ankles to tie them off. On each leg of his kunai holders, there was room for a scroll. He also wore black gloves without fingers that had a metal plate on top, and his elbow guards matched. Naruto didn't wear navy blue sandals, he wore black ones instead. Everyone thought Naruto looked great, but no one knew that he didn't choose what he wore. After seeing him in a neon orange jumpsuit, his best friend chose everything for him. She didn't trust Naruto to choose his own clothes after seeing that ugly thing. Yes, Naruto-kun, you no longer have to hold back. Though, I'm not sure that you really tried. Hiruzen Sarutobi smiled and said to the 13-year-old boy. Naruto agreed to stay in the very last spot, but he would flex his muscles every once in a while to make sure no one got too close to Hinata. He had said that people might go after Hinata because of Naruto, and it looked like Naruto had taken that to heart. Hiruzen was mad at Naruto at first. He had completely destroyed Hiruzen's real goals. Naruto never showed how strong he really was, though, he never went all out. He just told them he was better than he seemed. People in the academy often hid their real skills because they wanted to become shinobi one day, and shinobi used every hidden ace they could find. Though, most of them were from clans, and Hiruzen hoped they would think Naruto was doing the same thing. Hiruzen knew that was too much, but he thought that Naruto would be safe from Danzo's grasp as long as no one knew how far ahead he was. Naruto gave the Hokage a crooked smile and said, "Sweet. And I did too try. It's not my fault that I'm just too amazingly powerful to keep all my skills hidden," he joked. Even though it was mostly a joke, some of it was true. He did make mistakes from time to time over the years, and people now knew that he was hidden his strength. Hiruzen laughed. "I'm sure that's the case. Now, when you do decide to show off, try not to overdo it." "I really don't need more paperwork," Hiruzen said. He thought he had been sitting at this desk for so long that they might as well tie it to him. "When have I ever overdone anything?" With a tone that was clearly annoyed, Hiruzen deadpanned, "Hell Week." Naruto made up Hell Week as a week-long holiday to honor a big realization he had when he was 8 years old. It dawned on him that he didn't need to censor himself because he didn't care what other people thought of him. He could say and do anything that came to his mind as long as it wasn't against the law. He also did most things that were against the law. That's how Hell Week began. Everyone and everything was the target of jokes that week. When Naruto played jokes, no one was safe and nothing was holy. In just 1 year, he damaged the Hokage monument 5 times, got a group of ugly people to gather around the Hyuga compound while they trained their all-seeing eyes, left unsolvable puzzles at the Nara household, which made Shikaku have a small breakdown when he couldn't solve one, let the several hives out at the Aburame clan compound, poisoned the Akamichi, and set off a swarm of aphids into the Yamanaka flower shop. Junin was also fooled. He stole a masked ninja's favorite book and held it hostage. He did embarrassing things in public with Kakashi instead of giving him money. One of them was making him wear his eternal rival's green jumpsuit. He set up accidents and shut down all of Konoha's dango shops. The village was filled with the sound of Anko's cries. He also played a joke on Anbu. He did more than just paint bomb their bases and training grounds. He even wrote their names on their masks. It was also an accident that he pranked a root base. He thought their plain white masks were too boring, so it was his job to decorate them. When Danzo heard that, it almost made him have a heart attack. When the first Hell Week was over, things got so bad that Hiruzen used it to train Anbu to be faster in responding to terrorist attacks. A lot of people who were hurt by Naruto wanted him to be locked up. He must have been breaking the law very badly, right? Yes, it was. They couldn't jail Naruto, though, because he hadn't left any proof. I'm sorry, Gigi, I don't get what you mean. I have no idea what this Hell Week is all about, Naruto said with a tone of pride in his voice. He loved Hell Week so much. Oh, I'm sure you're not guilty of anything, Hiruzen said in a cheeky but loving way. He knew that Naruto didn't just throw a party when he got what he wanted, it was also a way for him to show off. He was sure it wasn't a coincidence that Naruto hit the people who had been mean to Hinata that year. Naruto held out his hand and said, "Sure. Now I do believe that you owe me money, Gigi." He had to wait for his first A-level mission pay to come in. Mizuki tried to get Naruto to steal the Forbidden Scroll so that he could learn one jutsu from it. He agreed after Mizuki told him he could promise that Naruto and Hinata would end up on the same team. Naruto didn't sneak up and steal it, though. He went into the Hokage's office and told Gigi what Mizuki was planning. The Hokage then let Naruto take the scroll. After going to the clearing, Naruto decided to look at the Forbidden Scroll. He had no idea what he was about to see. He didn't understand the first jutsu when he read it. He thought he had made up this jutsu that he had been using to train for years. He had no idea how he could have known about a jutsu that people already knew about. He thought about his strange instincts and asked himself if they were real. He thought it was very strange that his body could do things he had never heard of over the years. People tried to teach him the wrong way to throw a kunai, so how did he know? How was it that he was so good at both taijutsu and kenjutsu styles? Wow, he knew about a jutsu that was already out there. He had no idea what to say. While Naruto really wanted to ask the Hokage what was going on, he decided to look around a bit first. He would definitely ask Gigi if he couldn't find anything. Naruto beat up Mizuki very easily and gave her back the scroll. That's why he was about to get paid. Hiruzen smiled and threw Naruto a scroll. While making fun of Naruto's S rank in the Akamichi Book of Eaters, the Hokage said, "That's your pay for your first unofficial mission. I'll put it in your file as an official A ranked. Try to spend some of it on something other than food." Naruto's workout routine was truly impressive. Naruto does crazy things every day, so crazy that even Guy and his clone turned pale. Because of this and the resistance seal he had built, he had to eat an unbelievable amount of calories to stay healthy. In order to stay healthy, Naruto ate about 12,000 calories every day. His habit of eating outside of shops when he went to shops was so common that restaurant owners actually tried to get Naruto to eat in their places. He had been right in the end. He was now a very tall 4 feet 10 inches. Not bad for a 13-year-old, since he still had a lot of room to grow. He put the scroll in his pocket and said, "Haha Gigi, that was very funny." Hiruzen was about to answer when the sound of a child yelling cut him off. The kid yelled as he ran toward the Hokage with a shuriken, "Watch out, old man. Get ready to hand over that oof." Naruto didn't think before he acted. He thought that his substitute grandfather was in danger, so he didn't even notice that the attacker was a child until it was too late. He took a small amount of chakra from the bottom of his foot and sent it up the boy's leg. The boy was lying on his face when a small ghostly hand rose up from the floor and grabbed his ankle. The Hokage lowered his hat in shame, which made Naruto blink in surprise. This was the third time this week that his grandson tried to kill someone. Konohamaru slowly got up while rubbing his hurt face. He was so embarrassed that he had tripped over nothing. He knew he shouldn't have told people that, so he blamed someone. He told Naruto, "You tripped me," and was right, but he didn't know it. In spite of the fact that the boy tried to kill Gigi, Naruto was very stubborn and felt bad that he had tripped him. He told a smooth lie, "Not the way I saw it, brat." You tripped over your own 2 feet. As Konohamaru walked up to Naruto, he yelled, "You did too." As if Naruto should run away in fear of him. When Naruto grabbed him by the front of his shirt, he woke up quickly. In shock, a new voice yelled, "Unhand the honorable grandson." Naruto turned around and saw a man draped in black from head to toe. He wore black glasses that matched. Looking down, Naruto saw the boy with the cocky grin in his hands. He was proud and asked, "What? Not gonna hit me since my grandpa is the Hokage?" The Hokage put his hat down so that no one could ask him to say what would happen next. "My grandson, you have made a very big mistake." It didn't matter that the boy was wearing a helmet, Naruto yelled as he spiked him. "I don't care if he's your grandmother." Ebisu let out a sad cry as Konohamaru jumped around. He didn't think the demon kid would actually attack the honorable grandson in front of the Hokage. He brushed past an angry Ebisu and said, "Now that's taken care of, I'm off to find Hinata-chan. See you, Gigi." From behind his glasses, Naruto could almost feel the anger. Ebisu looked at the Hokage like he didn't understand. Shouldn't he have asked for that demon's head on a silver platter for hurting his family? When Ebisu looked at Hiruzen, he sighed. Like Naruto, he could feel waves of Ebisu's anger at the blonde. "Hokage-sama, that boy just assaulted the honorable grandson." "Oh, I didn't see anything," Hiruzen said in a tone that was so fake it hurt. Without waiting for Ebisu to answer, Konohamaru groaned as he woke up. "I see you're awake, Kono-chan," Hiruzen said, calling his grandson by that name. Another groan of pain from Konohamaru as he held his head up came back. The boy who was different from the other kids in the village caught Konohamaru's attention. "Who was that guy?" he asked. Hiruzen gave his grandson a smile. Hiruzen made a mean face at Ebisu and said, "That was Naruto Uzumaki, one of the greatest heroes in this village." That made Konohamaru pay attention. He was shocked and asked, "Really? What did he do?" Hiruzen gave him another smile. "Naruto-kun protects the village from something that could wipe the village away in a second, every single day, and he never gets thanked for it," Hiruzen said. Hiruzen had a brief moment of doubt that he might be giving out too much information, but he quickly pushed the thought aside. Konohamaru was young and had been taught that the Kyuubi and the Yondaime had died together. He never thought to connect the two. Ebisu resisted the urge to tisk, which made Konohamaru's eyes wide with awe. Being rude to his Hokage while being there would be rude, and Konohamaru would ask him why he didn't like the brat. Ebisu fixed his glasses. Ebisu said, "Come on, honorable grandson. We need to train," but he didn't notice that the room was missing a third person. Naruto and me. Walking down the street, Naruto went to a bakery that Hinata often went to. She often ate cinnamon buns or other sweet pastries there. It turned out that the Hyuga heiress really liked sweets. Naruto let out a loud yawn and threw his arms behind his head. He looked out of the corner of his eye and saw that the box-shaped rock was still following him. He didn't know who was following him, but they were following him very badly. Naruto quickly grew tired of his second shadow, so he climbed up on top of buildings to get rid of the rock. After a few minutes, he walked up to the bakery and saw Hinata where she always is, by the window. He smiled and walked into the store like any other customer. "Hello Naruto-san, is there anything we can get for you today?" asked the man behind the counter, who looked happy and excited. Naruto turned his head away. It was almost impressive how quickly the man's face went from happy to disgusted by his presence, even though the man tried to hide it. "No, I'm just here for Hinata-chan," he said. "She's in her usual spot," he said with a hint of hate before going to check on a cake. Naruto smiled when he saw Hinata eating a cinnamon bun. He didn't care that some new customers were looking at her with surprise. They didn't know that Hinata never hid what she liked to eat. Just as she was about to take another big bite, Naruto grabbed it from her and slid into the seat next to her with ease. She gave him the evil eye, but there was a small smile on her lips. He took a bite of the stolen sweet and asked, "Hello Hinata-chan. How are you this fine evening?" Hinata let out a sigh and took another cinnamon bun from the case that was almost empty. It was sweet of her to say, "I was doing great until you showed up," as she ate her treat. He smiled at his best friend like a fox. He said in a rude voice. Oh, is that how it is? Okay. Then I won't pay for your food. Hinata raised an eyebrow and dropped the long-running inside joke. Naruto-kun, I asked you to stop stealing. The way Naruto paid for all of his crazy food costs was that. Honestly, the rich people he broke into didn't deserve it. He would steal valuable things from their homes and sell them on the black market in the red light district. He didn't really understand that what he was doing was wrong. He stole from people who had too much and tried to make his life miserable. It also helped him get better at picking locks and sneaking around. Naruto defended himself by raising his arms. Naruto said, I didn't steal anything, I just got paid. He spun his hands to take his attention away, and out of nowhere, a scroll appeared in his hand. He didn't use chakra or fuinjutsu. Hinata thought it was magic, and she never got tired of seeing it. He finished with, for the A-rank mission, grinning like a fool at Hinata's confused but happy face. Hinata began to talk without stopping when Naruto raised his hand. The Hokage gave you an A-rank mission. When? What was it? No, the Hokage didn't technically give it to me, it was more of a coincidence. Yesterday, Mizuki tried to trick me into stealing the forbidden scroll, and when I told Gigi, he asked me to play along to see if Mizuki was working with anyone. I beat him up quickly enough and got my payment this morning, Naruto said, but a puzzled look came his face. Hinata nodded when Naruto asked, though, something did happen. You know my clone jutsu. Well, before Mizuki came I looked into the forbidden scroll, and the first jutsu in there was something called the shadow clone jutsu. Which is a solid clone purely made out of chakra that can send its memories to the original. Hinata's eyes got bigger. Naruto had just explained the jutsu that he had done because his gut told him 2 years ago. She was shocked and asked, but that? How? Naruto leaned in close and looked serious. I have no idea, I reread the text over a dozen times, it's the same jutsu down to the last detail, he said. Naruto whispered, I don't know how, but my instincts told me to recreate an existing jutsu, a kinjutsu at that. He did this while fidgeting with the black headband on his forehead, which was mostly hidden by his wild hair. Hinata asked, have you asked the Hokage? She thought that Naruto would go to the Hokage first if it had to do with jutsu. He shook his head. To be honest, he was still scared that Gigi would stop loving him if he showed that he was crazy. He really wanted to ask the old man, but he was only going to do it if he had no other choice. Naruto turned his head away. Hinata saw that Naruto was really hesitant and her eyes lit up as she said, I want to look into this a bit before I bring it to Gigi. With a soft smile, she told him that she would always be there for him, just like he had been there for her. Naruto was about to say something, but a square-shaped box moved a few feet away from the table and cut him off. Naruto was shocked as he looked down at the box. Someone crazy would make camouflage that bad, right? The rock was the same box-shaped shape and felt the same as the gravel outside. Did the stalker really think they could fool someone inside a store? Naruto got a strange look from Hinata. With a funny look, Hinata asked her best friend, is he yours? He looked like he was thinking a lot. I don't remember adopting any rocks lately, he said as he threw the rest of his cinnamon bun at the rock. Why are you following me? He asked as the rock went up in smoke in a rainbow of colors. Hinata and Naruto saw that it was Konohamaru when the smoke cleared. The younger boy yelled, I see you've seen through my clever disguise. The little boy was so cute, Hinata laughed. While he was impressed that he could move, Naruto told him, you're that brat in Gigi's office. Why are you following me? He hit the kid more hard than he meant to. Angry, Konohamaru yelled, I'm not a brat. He said with a cocky smile, and I was following you because I want you to train me. No, Konohamaru made a face fail. But why? Please teach me, boss. He begged Naruto, but Naruto didn't care. He rolled his eyes at Hinata until they met hers and gave him a, you know what you should do, look. He sighed. He could never say no to Hinata-chan. Naruto thought about the angry man in Gigi's office and asked, why do you want me to be your sensei? Don't you already have one? Konohamaru gave an unhappy nod. To Naruto's confused look, he replied, yeah, but he never teaches me anything good. And he's not a hero like you are. He couldn't think of anything heroic that he had done recently. Oh, I'm a hero? Naruto asked, wondering where Konohamaru got the idea. The boy agreed and said, yeah. Gigi told me that every day you protect the village from something that could kill us all in an instant. He didn't say what, though. Can you tell me? Konohamaru asked with his eyes shining. He was imagining how easy it would be for his new boss to kill a huge army of ninja. Naruto didn't want to laugh at how stupid the boy was, so he hit him on the helmet instead. Naruto looked at Hinata as Konohamaru started to jump up and down with happiness. Sorry, I can't tell you, but I guess I can find some time to train you. He asked Hinata-chan, do you want to go with us? She shook her head. Sorry Naruto-kun, but I have a sparring match with my little sister, she said sad. It was because Hinata and Naruto had trained hard for years that she always won. She didn't like the sparring sessions, though, because she could feel her family falling apart every time. When Hanabi won, she would get very angry and storm off, mumbling, I hate you, the whole way. Father would praise her, which made things worse between her and her sister because he was critical of Hanabi. Aged people would look at her funny. They didn't like her because she was friends with Naruto or because she had made up her own style of gentle fist. People thought she was putting years of tradition down. She got very hot when Naruto smiled at her in a knowing way. He stood up and said, okay, Hinata-chan. Tell Hanabi that I told you to make sure she keeps her elbows up. Hanabi had been getting help with her forms from him when she caught him training with Hinata. Some people would find it very strange for someone who isn't a Hyuga to help a Hyuga with their stances, but Hanabi knew that Naruto did just that for Hinata. She wanted him to do the same thing with her, of course. Konohamaru went and looked at both of them. His pinky was raised to say, hey girlie, are you bosses? Hinata got a hot flush and her vision got blurry, but she fought the urge to pass out. Even though she was much more sure of herself, she always looked like a fool when she talked about her feelings for the blonde. Naruto had no idea how she felt about him and wouldn't even look at her when she tried to start dating him. She would, accidentally, brush her hand against his, trying to get through his thick skull that she wanted him to hold it. All he would do is mumble, sorry. She thought about just telling him how she felt, but as we already said, whenever her feelings for Naruto came up, she would stutter so badly that no one would have been able to understand what she was saying, even if she had been able to stay awake long enough. He also got red cheeks when he heard Konohamaru's stupid words. He felt something for his best friend of a long time, but he never did anything about it. But he didn't want to make things awkward with his only real friend. Plus, he had heard of a thing called the friend zone, and he was sure that was what happened to him. Every guy knew that once you were in the friend zone, it was nearly impossible to get out. Hinata often called him her best friend. Naruto, on the other hand, accepted his fate. Even if Hinata never felt the same way about him, he would still be by her side, even if she had to marry someone else for her clan. As she said, I do, he would stand by her side and rip out his heart. He asked with red cheeks, what do you have to say that for, brat? Almost running out of the store, he quickly grabbed Konohamaru by the scarf and waved goodbye to Hinata. Come on, let's get your training started, he said. With the Hokage, Hiruzen was sitting at his desk, and his office was full of people working. He took a puff on his pipe and then said, I trust you all know you're here to receive your genin teams. The Junin let out mumbled, hi, s. The majority of them didn't want to play against a genin team. Once a Junin took on a genin team, they had to train the brats that were given to them, which put their own careers on hold for a while. But Kakashi Hatake and Kurenai were the only ones who didn't follow the rules. Kakashi was so excited he couldn't even describe it. He was finally going to be able to talk to his little brother in person, not just through scrolls. After 13 years, he was finally going to be able to train and protect him the way he should have. Kurenai was excited to teach her fake little sister how to do things. Finally, Ko's stress over Hinata always going missing got too much for him, and he had a small episode. What was more important, though, was that Kurenai had taken over the job and thought of Hinata as her little sister. The girl and she didn't talk to each other as much as she wanted because, like when Ko was watching, she would run off to train with Naruto, but when they did, you would have thought they were sisters. Hiruzen picked up the piece of paper that listed the best teams and said, "Let's get started, shall we?" Most teams were put together by grade level, but some specialized teams were put together by skills and how well they worked together. One example is the team of Ino, Shika, and Sho. Hiruzen began, Team 1. Team 7. Naruto Uzumaki, Hinata Hyuga, and Sasuke Uchiha under Kakashi Hatake, Hiruzen said, knowing that he was about to hear a lot of bad things. He didn't like this job at all. All due respect Hokage-sama, but is it really wise to place Sasuke Uchiha on the same team with Naruto Uzumaki? It is my understanding that the Uchiha does not work well with others, especially not with the Uzumaki, and has a hard time sympathizing with anyone. This would be a serious issue on any team, but with those two, it will only be exacerbated and all three will fail, Kakashi said with a slight annoyance. He thought Sasuke was mean, and he would rather have someone else on his team than Sasuke. Hiruzen let out a sigh. Kakashi, you are the last person in this village who knows how to use the Sharingan. You need to teach young Sasuke how to use it when he awakens it, Hiruzen said. Kakashi gave him an angry one-eyed look in response. Sasuke has no concept of teamwork. He has no concept of empathy. He should be on a team with a Genjutsu specialist or a Yamanaka, regardless of his dujutsu. The boy needs mental help that I am ill-equipped to provide. We all know I'm not a mental health specialist. I can certainly take time to train him in the use of the Sharingan, if he ever gets his. But that isn't a good enough reason to screw over two other shinobi candidates, Kakashi said in a serious way, shocking a few of the people present. A lot of people knew that teams either passed or failed together. Kakashi got a narrow look from Hiruzen. We both know that Naruto is smart enough to see through your test. He'll convince Sasuke to work together with Hinata and himself. And need I remind you that when you take on a genin team that you are allowed no favoritism. You are there to train their strengths and get rid of their weaknesses and bad habits. In the event that they do pass, that is what you will be doing with Sasuke's arrogance, he said. Kakashi knew where the Hokage was coming from, but he didn't think it was possible to make a Uchiha less proud once it had set in. Obito, Shushi, and Itachi were the only Uchihas he could think of who didn't have the haughtiness that was typical of their clan. Kakashi was sure that the only reason they were the only ones who hadn't given in to pride was because they had never given in. Obito, Kami bless his heart, was a fool before he died and never took anything seriously. From what Shushi told him, Obito was the same way. Itachi seemed to really believe that the things his clan taught them were wrong. But Itachi did have a reason to be cocky in a way. That wasn't the only reason Kakashi didn't want Sasuke on his team, though. Not until months after the Uchiha massacre did Sasuke finally understand what lesson Naruto had learned from beating him in a fight years before. His response was something no one saw coming. It didn't bother Sasuke. If the kid had finally turned into a psychopath or was just trying to deny that his family could do something so horrible, Kakashi didn't care at all. Sasuke didn't care at all. He said sorry, but it wasn't from the bottom of his heart, he just didn't care. It isn't favoritism. I've been following this year's class and I don't even need to test them to know that Naruto and Sasuke will self-destruct as a team, causing untold problems, Kakashi said as a last-ditch effort. Hiruzen looked like he was thinking a lot. Kakashi did make a good point. They didn't want to be in the same room with each other at all. When he first thought about them being on the same team, he thought they would both be professionals. Even though they hated each other, they wouldn't let that get in the way of a mission. But Kakashi told the old Hokage that he might be putting too much faith in things that were still very much like children. Hiruzen let out a sigh. I see your point, Hiruzen said, cursing his old age. Naruto and Sasuke might not be professional enough to put aside their feelings for the mission. It was becoming clear to Hiruzen that he wasn't as smart as he was even just a year ago. He forgot little things and couldn't see patterns or predict problems like the one that happened now. He could still remember things if they were really important or if someone's life depended on it. He could also see problems coming, but he didn't know how many clear moments he had left. He was being lied to by his mind and body. If he didn't find a replacement soon, he knew the worst would happen. He took another look at the papers. Hiruzen said, Team 7 now has Hinata Hyuga, Naruto Uzumaki, and Kiba Inuzuka under Kakashi Hatake as a heavy assault tracking team. He then looked at Kurenai, who looked like she was about to blow up from anger. It seems unfair that Kakashi Hatake gets to pick his team while the rest of us don't get to say what we want. I officially asked to form a tracking team with Hinata Hyuga, Kiba Inuzuka, and Shino Aburame, Kurenai said, barely hiding her anger behind fake politeness. With an angry, authoritative look, Hiruzen said, Junin Hatake brought up a good reason to switch teams. A conflict that I missed because I'm more used to dealing with professional ninjas than middle school kids. Further, formal requests are not a guarantee that you will get what you want, and you know that. Team 8 will consist of Sasuke Uchiha, Sakura Haruno, and Shino Aburame under Kurenai High as a Genjutsu tracking team, Hiruzen said sternly in a clear moment. Kurenai knew that Sakura was very good at Genjutsu and that Sasuke should also be naturally good at it. With the skill he should learn from Kakashi with the Sharingan, Sasuke could also be the team's heavy hitter. While all three of them could be good trackers, Sasuke might be even better if he got his hands on his family's summoning contract with cats. Kurenai gave a nod to show that she understood and agreed with the change. She really wanted to get the team she had asked for, but she knew that she didn't have a good reason to push for another change like Kakashi did. In his mind, Hiruzen gave himself a pat on the back for calming things down. Since Team 9 is still being rotated, Team 10 will be made up of Shikamaru Nara, Choji Akamichi, and Ino Yamanaka, led by Asuma Sarutobi, as a capture and questioning team, Hiruzen said, and his son gave him a nod. You all are dismissed, Naruto and me. Naruto was lying on a log and watching Konohamaru fail the sexy jutsu again. Even though it was such a sick jutsu, it was very clever. It was a great way to distract them since most shinobi were men and all men are perverts at heart. Even more, Naruto couldn't help but think about how much trouble Konohamaru's jutsu would cause. Naruto gave a small smile as he thought about it. Once more, Naruto said, you got the curves right, but they're in the wrong places. He looked at another failed attempt. In anger, Konohamaru yelled, Gah! It's too hard. He had spent hours practicing this jutsu. Heaved a sigh, Naruto asked in a rhetorical way, is that how the future Hokage will act? A few hours ago, Konohamaru told Naruto why he was attacking Gigi every day and how he felt bad that everyone saw him as the honorable grandson, and not as his own person. Naruto's words made Konohamaru puffed out his cheeks in irritation, and he was about to try the jutsu again when a voice cut him off. As Ebisu jumped down from a nearby tree, he said, honorable grandson. I've been looking all over for you. This made Konohamaru look shocked and then determined. Yelling, go away. Boss is teaching me now. When the Kyuubi Jinchuuriki was brought up, Ebisu gave a tisk. Honorable grandson, this boy is nothing but a dead last fool, whereas I am an elite Junin. I can teach you the secrets and shortcuts to becoming H. Boss yelled, there aren't any shortcuts. You gotta work hard to become Hokage, and don't call boss a dead last. He's way cooler than you. And cut him off. The name of Konohamaru's new move was called out before Ebisu could defend himself. When the boy said, sexy jutsu, smoke filled the air, but when it cleared, a pretty, busty brunette stood in his place. The jutsu only made Ebisu take a few steps back. It didn't change anything else about him. As he put his glasses back on, he told his grandson, honorable grandson, you shouldn't waste any time on such a silly method. Konohamaru yelled, why isn't it working? As he changed back into his old self. Naruto got up from his log and said, because he's a closet pervert. You need something with a little more kick to deal with his kind. But don't worry, I have a technique that will work just fine on him. I sincerely doubt. Naruto used one of the two genjutsu he knew to call out, Genjutsu, Pervert's Paradise. The effect happened right away. Ebisu's words stopped as he started to smile in a very bad way. At the same time, two streams of blood started coming out of his nose. Naruto walked up to the man and lightly poked him in the forehead. The man fell over, but his perverted smile was still on full display. Konohamaru asked his tutor what happened to him, and gave him a light kick in the ribs to make sure he was awake. Naruto gave an ominous answer. I put him in a genjutsu where all of his twisted fantasies will come true. It's very dangerous because once you're in it, you may never want to leave. He then looked up at the sun and saw that dinner was almost ready. I believe that was enough training for today. Let's go home, Naruto said as he walked toward the Sarutobi clan's home. While quickly following, Konohamaru yelled, "Okay, boss." With Hinata, Hinata blocked a blow to the stomach and quickly poked her attacker 3 times in the arm, killing the limb. Hanabi jumped back and didn't care that her arm was now useless. She was getting ready to attack again when she was stopped. That's enough, Hanabi, her dad told her. Hanabi looked like she didn't want to do it, but she did it with Hinata. They all said, "Yes, father." Hiyashi took a look at both of them. As expected, Hinata, you did great. Your accuracy and speed were up to par for a Hyuga heiress. Hinata nodded to show that she understood, but she wasn't at all excited about what would happen next. He looked at his youngest daughter, who was trying to ignore the fact that her arm was tingling. He scolded his daughter harshly, "Hanabi, your form has a lot of holes in it, and your speed and accuracy were both lacking. These may be excused because of your age, but you will not always be young. Train harder. You may not be the heiress, but I will not have a weak main branch member, especially not my own daughter." Hinata had seen this look many times in her first 7 years of life. Hanabi winced at every word and answered with a very angry face. "Yes, father," she would have cried if she wasn't so proud. She always thought she was behind her sister and wasn't good enough, no matter what she did. He turned to Hanabi and said, "Good. You two have the rest of the day off. If I were you, I would use that time to work on the holes in your stances." He then left the dojo. Hinata looked at her shaking sister with a soft face. "Hanabi," she said as she reached out to comfort her family member, but her hand was slapped away. "Say, leave me alone," Hanabi yelled as she walked toward the door to the training area. "I could help you with your training, Hanabi," Hinata begged her sister, hoping to stop the rift between them from getting bigger. Hanabi laughed and snapped, "I don't need you to train me. You're only strong because that Naruto guy trains you." She then stormed off, leaving Hinata looking sad. She looked at the door her dad had left open. "Father, don't you see that you're tearing our family apart?" she asked herself as she left the dojo. The next day, there was no one else in the classroom but Naruto, Hinata, and Kiba. Their teacher was more than an hour and a half late. You'd think that after knowing me for years, she wouldn't call me that Naruto guy. I mean, it's kind of rude, Naruto said as Hinata told him that Hanabi had yelled at her the other day. While Naruto tried to make Hinata smile, she said, "Naruto-kun," in a sad voice. Naruto let out a big sigh. "There isn't much you can do, Hinata-chan. You've tried to talk to your father. He won't listen. You've tried helping Hanabi and she hates you for being stronger than her." Naruto left with a shrug. Naruto doesn't usually tell people they can't win, but he and Hinata had done everything they could think of to fix the problem in the Hyuga clan. Naruto didn't know what to do because the rift had grown bigger over the past 7 years. "Could you try to help her out with her stances more often? She thinks I got so strong because I trained with you," Hinata said. Hanabi would never say it, but she thought a lot of Naruto. She had seen Naruto's crazy training schedule before and admired the blonde right away. He did a third of what he did, and she thought he was crazy, but she had a lot of respect for him. Naruto gave a nod. He said, "Yeah, I'll train her when I have time to train Konohamaru." He gave it some thought for a moment. He laughed out loud and said, "That's going to be fun for a couple of hours." Hinata gave him a warm smile. "Thank you, Naruto-kun." Naruto just gave a smile back. "No need to thank me, Hinata-chan. Wait, you just became a genin. Why the hell do you already have students?" Kiba yelled, and Akamaru responded with a bark. Naruto seemed to think about it. He replied in a sarcastic way, "Maybe it's because I'm cooler than you. Or maybe it's because you smell like a wet dog." He didn't dislike Kiba, but he also didn't hate him. Many things they shared were sarcasm, pulling jokes on each other, and sleeping in class. They were both interested in the Hyuga heiress. Kiba had tried more than once to formally court Hinata. Because they were both clan heirs, he couldn't just ask her out. Each time, though, Naruto ruined the plan. He would sneak in and ruin his nice clothes, put laxatives in his food, give Akamaru fleas, and so on. It got so bad that Hiashi said he would never have to be a helicopter dad again because Naruto already did that for him. Hinata didn't like her dates with Kiba or the other suitors very much, but she couldn't get out of them because of the rules. She was always glad that Naruto caused trouble and made the suitors want to end the date early. However, Akamaru didn't agree with Kiba's growl, "I don't smell like a wet dog." "Yes, you do. Even Akamaru can handle being near you. That means he's a very loyal friend," Naruto replied in a jokey voice. When Akamaru barked in agreement, he laughed. As Hinata-chan growled again, Kiba hoped she would defend him. "Traitor, I don't smell like a wet dog. Tell them." Lucky for Hinata, the door slid open to reveal a Junin in a mask whose hair defied gravity. "Yo, are you Team 7? He asked innocently, trying to look shy and sorry he was late. In the least, he wasn't. He thought about being on time to see his little brother for once, but he chose not to. He had to keep up a certain image. He knew it wasn't a great one, but it was his reputation, and he would use it however he pleased. The man caught Naruto's attention. Even though his voice sounded very familiar, he couldn't place the man's eye or hair because that was all that was visible. Kiba yelled, "Yes, you're late, sensei." Akamaru barked with his master. Naruto and Kakashi both liked to do the same thing, rub the back of their heads. He replied in the same shy way, "Sorry about that. I had to help an old lady with her groceries." No one in the room believed him, but no one said anything. "Well, meet me on the roof," Kakashi said as he turned around and climbed up to the roof. The three genin looked at each other and seemed to agree in silence that they had been treated unfairly by their senseis. They then got up and went to the roof on their own. Up on top, the three genin sat down on the steps in front of their new sensei, who was reading a book that Naruto knew. "Our sensei is a cruel liar and a pervert, good." He put down the romance book and looked at the soldiers he was going to train. "Now that you're all here, why don't you introduce yourselves? Stuff like your name, likes, dislikes, hobbies, dreams for the future, stuff like that," he said idly. "Hinata." He bowed his head and said, "You start." Her name was Hinata Hyuga, and she liked training, cinnamon buns, and Naruto-kun. She didn't like perverts or bullies, and she gave Kakashi a mean look because she knew the book was trash. "My hobbies are training with Naruto-kun and flower pressing, and my dream for the future is to get rid of most of the traditions in my clan when I'm clan head," Hinata said quietly. Even though she didn't stutter, she was naturally quiet. Kakashi gave a nod. He knew most of that because he had been following them until last year, but it was always nice to find out in a less creepy way. Naruto made up his mind about where to go next. He said, "My name is Naruto Uzumaki, and I like training, food in general, the sky, and Hinata-chan." He left out Hell Week just in case. "I dislike arrogant bastards, confined places, and people who try to hurt Hinata-chan. My hobbies are pranking, training, making new seals, and training with Hinata-chan. My dreams for the future. Become Hokage. No, king of the world, maybe," Naruto thought. Then he snapped his fingers. His dream was to be emperor of the universe, he said with a smile. He had just chosen a dream. It wasn't really his dream. His real dream was to see Hinata reach her goals and keep her safe until the end. His other wish was to be able to fly. Naruto didn't know why, but he was always drawn to the sky. The situation got so bad that Hinata once said she was used to seeing his neck when she looked up more than her face. It made him feel like he belonged in the sky, not stuck on Earth. Because he had lived with the Uchiha, Kakashi knew that not liking places that hold you back came from that time. Kakashi was very upset that Naruto was still dealing with the trauma he had been through, but he knew it was going to happen. Kurenai really should have learned as much about this year's genin as he did. She would have been able to make a strong case for both Sasuke and Naruto to join her team. She didn't care about Naruto, though. Naruto wouldn't go to therapy, even though Kakashi had nothing to say, and he wouldn't talk about what happened in the room. Kakashi thought he wouldn't even talk to Hinata about it. Naruto hadn't been seen or heard from in about a year. He could be found only during Hell Week or when he wanted to eat. He even stayed away from Anbu trackers, some of whom were Inuzuka's. She knew where he had gone but wouldn't tell anyone, not even the Hokage. She told them Naruto was training, but she didn't want them to know because she didn't want to break his trust. That didn't make the council or the Hokage happy. Not willing to give in, Hinata did what Hiruzen said he could do as long as it wasn't dangerous. No one saw her gulp at that. The loud yell from Kiba woke Kakashi up from his thoughts. My name is Kiba Inuzuka, and I like Akamaru, Hinata-chan, and my clan. I don't like having to clean the kennels, my sisters when they're being annoying, and people who don't care about their own business. Kiba glared at Naruto, who was looking up at the sky. Kiba spoke out loud with a wild grin. I like to play with Akamaru and train with Akamaru. My goal is to become the best hunter nin in the village. When Kiba was done, Kakashi began to introduce himself. My name is Kakashi Hatake. I don't really feel like telling you my likes or dislikes, my hobbies are. My dream for the future. That seems kinda personal, so I won't be telling you that either, he said with a smile on his face. The genin didn't seem interested in the introduction. They all thought at the same time, we only learned his name. Now that we all know each other, I'm afraid I have some bad news for you. You're not genin yet, he added. Outside, Naruto didn't seem to be thinking about what the man meant, but inside, he was. Hinata's eyes got really big. Kiba asked, what do you mean we're not genin? We passed the test. Kakashi just laughed. That test was merely meant to root out the hopeless cases. Each Junin gives their potential genin team a test. Despite sounding so simple, the failure rate is over 66% and the failures are sent back to the academy, Kakashi said cruelly. Naruto rubbed his forehead in confusion. What do you mean that they're sent back to the academy? I haven't seen any of the kids that graduated back there, he said. Kakashi gave a nod. Kakashi explained with a small shudder as he thought about how close he and his team were to failing their exam. They are sent to a different academy that focuses more on the physical aspects of being a shinobi, but even when they graduate from that academy, they don't get Junin instructors. They are put on reserves until there's an opening in a genin squad or they prove themselves valuable enough to be apprenticed. Naruto said, yes, that makes a lot more sense. If that's all there is to it, meet me at the training ground at 7 a.m. Oh, and don't eat breakfast, you'll throw it up, he said as he disappeared in a cloud of leaves. Naruto let out a sigh as he stretched. Wow, that's a surprise. Do you want to go get something to eat, Hinata-chan? Naruto asked his friend, who nodded. Naruto asked Kiba, you wanna tag along? Since we're teammates now, he asked in a careless way because he didn't really want Kiba to go with him but thought he should try to get along with the Inuzuka. He shook his head. He lied and said, I have to study for tomorrow. He didn't want Naruto to bother him before the test tomorrow. The next day, Naruto played with two chain links that were fused together and helped him control his chakra. They were made of metal that could absorb chakra and would only break apart if a very small amount of chakra was put into them. It was such a simple idea, but it worked really well because you could do it while moving, and each time you succeeded, the amount of chakra would change a little. There were two of his teammates leaning against the tree training poles in the middle of a clearing. He looked up at them. Naruto asked out loud, I wonder if this is something that sensei always does. Their teacher was again almost 2 hours late today. I hope not, Hinata said as she stood up and stretched. Even though Hinata was patient, this was a joke. Right on time, a swirl of leaves showed up in front of them. Kakashi lied and didn't try to be convincing when he said, yo. Sorry I'm late, a black cat crossed my path, so I had to take the long way. All three genin dropped their sweat. It's definitely a habit, Hinata thought in a sad tone. The test can begin now that we're all here, Kakashi said, as if someone else were late. Kakashi put the bells through his belt loop and said, your goal is to take these bells from me by noon today. If you fail to do so, you'll be sent back to the academy and put in the reserves. He deadpanned, "There's only 2 bells," and looked at Kakashi with interest. He knew this guy from somewhere. Kakashi smiled at him. "Very good. Point for you. There are only 2 bells, so that means that only 2 of you can pass. The one who doesn't get a bell ends up in the academy," Kakashi said. That made Kiba tense up. Now was his chance. He would give one of those bells to Hinata if he could get them, and Naruto would be sent back to the academy. He would no longer be able to get in the way of him and Hinata. Naruto's expression of confusion got worse. He knew for sure that Genin teams had 3 Genin and a Junin sensei. So why did Kakashi tell him that one of them would fail? Would a Genin who had already failed the exam be put in place of the 3rd member? Since there are no more questions, begin on 3. 1, 2, 3. 2 blurs ran off into the forest, but Naruto stayed where he was and kept staring at Kakashi with a serious face. Kakashi smiled when his little brother looked at him funny. "I meant for you to go when I said go," he told her. Naruto gave a nod. He stated, "I know, but I'm trying to figure out where I know you from. Your voice sounds familiar," while maintaining his attention on Kakashi. Kakashi's eyes got a little bigger. He had only talked to Naruto after he got out of the Uchiha torture chamber and once when Naruto was 4 years old and having a bad dream. After that, he tried to comfort Naruto, but it took a while. To be honest, the boy only calmed down after he left, but he couldn't remember that, could he? Kakashi told him he'd tell Naruto later after being stared at for more than a minute. The 2 of them then got into taijutsu stances, and Kakashi pulled out his book. Kakashi was pretty sure he wasn't going to get to read, but he knew that an angry or frustrated opponent would be careless. They fought in the air with hard punches and kicks. When they hit each other, they were both just blurs. Naruto took a round kick to the jaw and just missed the next punch, a left hook. Kakashi thought that Naruto's retaliation of kicks and punches would be so unpredictable that even if he showed his left eye, it would be hard for him to guess what they would do. But none of the blows hit, and Kakashi even started blocking some of them with his book. With a quick twist of his body, Naruto blocked a knee to the gut with both forearms and then quickly hit back with an elbow to the face. Kakashi took the blow with his hand, put his book under Naruto's armpit, then threw him across the clearing while putting the book away right away. As Naruto flew across the clearing, he did some amazing acrobatics in the air to keep his back to his opponent. When he finally turned around and faced the ground, a blue ghost hand shot out of his hand and toward Kakashi. Kakashi just barely avoided the ghost hand. He was ready for Naruto to use this move. He had heard from the Hokage about Naruto's inherited Kage Genkai, and he was amazed at how well it worked. It was clear that Kushina knew her chakra chains were badly made because they couldn't connect to anything. They were able to pierce or wrap around something, but she couldn't catch something that was being thrown at her in the air. There was no flaw in Naruto's version of that. Kakashi blinked in surprise when the one ghost hand turned into 2. He had to focus on the hands that were trying to grab the bells at this point. He was going to use Obito's Sharingan Eye, but he knew that showing it would defeat the purpose of the exercise. Naruto used his chakra arms to chase Kakashi. 2 arms wasn't even close to how many he could do, but he thought he should hold back 2 since Kakashi was. Kakashi called out, "Earth release, mud wall." He used the wall to take a short break from the arms that wouldn't stop. He looked at his chakra in the palm of one of the chakra arms and smiled. The samurai leader Kakashi took a deep breath. He was truly amazed by Naruto's skills. He could use his chakra arms and Kushina's chains together. Then he heard the sound of digging in the ground. Kakashi jumped back just in time as a chakra arm with a Rasengan shot through his earth wall and almost hit him in the stomach. Kakashi jumped back into a handspring and kept flipping until he hit the water. He changed the Rasengan into a long-range weapon. Kakashi was filled with awe as he thought this. Only Naruto had been able to make the Rasengan better out of the 3 people who knew that jutsu. Kakashi wasn't sure if he should be proud of his little brother for using it against a friend or mad at him for it. Some Senbon were thrown at Kakashi, and 2 of them hit him in the leg. This stopped him in the middle of practicing the hand signs for water release, water dragon jutsu. Kakashi's eyes got really big in shock as that leg went straight through the water. It took him a moment to figure out that the Senbon had hit his Tenketsu and were being charged with chakra. A second later, Hinata joined him on the surface of the water. Hinata's shy face was covered with a mask that made her look calm and ready to fight. Kakashi laughed as he put all of his weight on one leg. Kakashi told him, "You have great aim," as he pulled the Senbon out of his leg. "I'm guessing that one of the traditions you want to break is your clan being close-ranged fighters," he said loudly. His clan, which was made up of shinobi who could see for miles, only used close-range attacks. This had always seemed strange to him. Hinata smiled and got ready to fire another volley. Hinata said as she fired the next charge, "I also want my clan to become medics. With our Byakugan and chakra control, we could be some of the best." Due to not being able to use his leg, Kakashi did some acrobatics to avoid the Senbon and tried to get to the shore. He did, however, join forces with Hinata. Naruto joined them on the surface of the water and put pressure on Kakashi. Because one of Kakashi's legs wasn't working on the water, it was hard for him to keep up. It hit Kakashi hard how much he relied on Obito's eye to keep an eye on his enemies when Hinata sneaked up on him with those Senbon. Kakashi blocked and dodged Naruto's attacks and Hinata's Senbon, but Naruto finally got past him when his useless leg tried to help him stand up in the water and caused him to fall. Naruto threw a strong left hook that Kakashi blocked, but then he hit Kakashi in the jaw with an upper kick, throwing him into the air. With the momentum of his kick, Naruto flipped in the air. As Kakashi took off, he reached out and almost grabbed one of the bells. But Kakashi saw that Naruto was about to fail the test, so he stomped his foot on the boy's face and then fell backwards into the water. As Kakashi tried to calm down, he let himself fall into the water. The two of them were pushing him pretty hard, and he was starting to think about not holding back. He dove past the chakra arms that were trained on him as he swam to the bottom of the lake. When he got to the bottom, he used an extra earth jutsu to dig a tunnel through the ground and out of the lake. When he came to the surface a few hundred yards from the water, he checked out his leg. Sure enough, he still couldn't direct chakra past his knee, but everything else was fine. In his mind, he made a list of the techniques that he could no longer use or could only use very little of: shunshin, enhanced kicks, and surface walking. While Kakashi was massaging his leg, he heard a loud rustling sound coming from the bushes. He sighed and pretended not to hear it. Kiba smiled from the trees as he watched his sensei, who was hurt, try to get his leg to feel better. By chance, Kakashi had come back to the surface nearby. Kiba had been up in the trees watching the fight between Naruto Tem and Kakashi sensei. Kiba was shocked by how strong Naruto was. He knew Naruto picked to be the very last one, but he didn't think he would be able to stop a Junin. Which made me wonder why Naruto was holding back so much. He could have been at the top of the class, so why did he stay at the bottom? His reason might have been to join Hinata's team. With those strange chakra arms and that strange jutsu, Naruto pushed Kakashi sensei back into the lake, and Hinata sunk sensei with her Senbon. This made him miss them. Kiba thought to himself, I need to get one of the bells soon if I want to be on Hinata-chan's team. Akamaru let out a low whine as if he could hear what his master was saying. The fact that Kakashi had come to the surface just a few yards away had to be a gift from the kami, right? Ga. Kakashi faked being surprised as he looked up and saw the attack coming at him. It took him until the very end to smack Kiba away with the back of his hand and avoid the death drill. Kiba flew off to the side and broke a tree when it hit it. It then came to a violent stop. The female player on a team often dates or marries a male player, so I guess Hinata will end up with Naruto. Oh, you're out of it already. Guess my team will be Hinata and Naruto, probably for the best, Kakashi said in a bored voice as he pulled out his little orange book again. He was trying to irritate Kiba while also giving her hints about what the test really meant. Even though Hinata and Naruto worked well together, he couldn't get past them until everyone worked together. He growled like a dog that had been kicked as he stood up. He screamed, "Oh yeah, how do you like this? Man-beast clone." While Akamaru was behind Kakashi, he suddenly changed into an exact copy of Kiba. I yelled, "Gatsa ga." As Kiba turned around, Akaru was doing the same thing, so Kakashi didn't have to turn around to see it. It was, after all, the same jutsu done as a team. They both sped forward, and Kakashi jumped into the air to keep them from running into each other. Before Kiba and Akamaru climbed up a tree to attack Kakashi in the air, they brushed against each other but didn't hurt each other. The two spinning wheels of death came at Kakashi from the front and the back. He let out a low whistle. He was impressed by how well Kiba could use more than one clan technique. Most clan heirs could only use one technique from their own clan. It wasn't enough, though. Kakashi saw that Akamaru was a little faster than his master and used that to figure out how the jutsu worked. Akaru got close to Kakashi, so Kakashi put his foot on Akamaru's side and pushed him into his master. When they hit each other in the air, the jutsu was broken, and both of them fell to earth. Kakashi landed gracefully while reading his little book. He let out a sigh of relief when he saw Kiba struggling to get back up. A little irritated, he asked, "You don't really think you can win, do you?" Kiba was pushing himself too hard, and he might fail the team by accident because he would be waste of space. Kiba yelled as he stood up, "Shut up, Cyclops." He took a small tube of pills out of his pocket. Before taking one himself, Kiba threw one of the soldier pills to Akamaru. Akamaru turned a bloody red color, and Kiba looked even more wild than he already did. Kakashi looked on with some mild interest. Kakashi let out a sigh as he put the book down. "You're very stubborn," Kakashi said. Kakashi was hit by a few smoke bombs from Kiba, who then yelled, "Gatsa, ga!" again. Then Kakashi used his earth jutsu again and disappeared below the surface of the earth. Kiba then attacked everything above him. "So I have my little brother, who is a genius like no one else. I have a Hyuga that doesn't follow clan rules and has at least one long-range ability. Also, I have an Inuzuka that can do a lot of different clan moves. It looks like I got lucky with this team, if they pass," Kakashi said from below. When Kakashi heard the noise above stop, he slid under Kiba and pulled him down until only the boy's head was left. He then came back up. Kiba was yelling at him to dig him out, so he laughed at her. Seeing someone buried up to their necks was always funny to him, no matter how many times he saw it. A round of Senbon quickly turned a nearby log that he was kawarmied with into a pincushion, ending his fun. Kakashi found it a little scary that they were coming at him so hard that they could kill him, even though he had forgotten to tell them to do that. Since Kakashi's leg was finally better, he turned away and wondered if the three of them would work together. Kakashi knew Naruto and Hinata could get the bells on their own, but as a genin team, he couldn't pass them unless they all worked together. Naruto and Hinata jumped into the open area and cursed that they had missed Kakashi. After that, they saw Kiba's head and Akamaru, who was working hard to get his master out. Hinata rushed over right away and helped him get out while Naruto laughed and fell to the ground. Naruto laughed at Kiba's expense and said, "Oh, that's so rich." When he replied, Kiba glared at him like he was crazy. "I told Uzumaki to shut up, and he did." Hinata and Akamaru were digging out the Inuzuka when Kiba thanked them both. He then said he didn't need their help to get out. Naruto rolled his eyes and then said in a serious voice, "Now that Kiba is out of his hole, we need to talk about something." Kiba's eyes got smaller. Naruto was in charge, which made Kiba angry. "Yeah, what would I need to talk to you about?" he asked. There was a sigh of irritation from Naruto. "Teamwork." From there, Hinata quickly picked it up. She told the ninja user, "Naruto and I think Kakashi-sensei is lying when he says that one of us will fail no matter what. That's why we think we should work together." When Kiba and Akamaru both asked, "What do you mean he's lying?" Hinata-chan said, "We think he's lying. We're not sure though. I know for a fact that genin teams consist of 3 genin and a junin instructor." "How do you know that?" Kiba asked, cutting Naruto off. The boy got a blank look from Naruto. His voice was flat as he said, "The academy. You should know that twice over since you're the heir to the clan." The worst part of being the last person was that people like Kiba were thought to be smarter than him at times like these. That made him angry. Kiba tried to come up with a reason why he didn't know that, even though he fully understood it. He only meant to be mean to Naruto. When Kiba couldn't think of a reason, he yelled, "Shut up." Hinata asked Naruto, "Are you sure you want to work with this guy?" He just rolled his eyes. After a short pause, Hinata nodded. "As I was saying, 3 genin and a junin. We think that the bells are a lie and the real reason behind the test is teamwork, however, we could be wrong. He may be telling the truth and one of us will fail, even if we get the bells, and a genin from the other academy will replace the one that fails," Naruto said. I saw Kiba think about this for a while. Kiba asked in a tough voice, "What if you're wrong? Who fails?" He wouldn't let Naruto send him back to the academy until he died. Naruto gave a shrug. His answer, "We'll burn that bridge down when we cross it," showed that he planned for Kiba to fail if they were wrong. He didn't mean any harm, but he couldn't protect Hinata if she wasn't on the same side as him. Akamaru quickly yipped to show that he agreed to the deal as Kiba looked down at him. Kiba also nodded to show that she agreed. Sometimes, if Akamaru thought something was smart, it really was. Hinata gave them a small smile as they agreed to work together. "Good, now, I have a plan." Several smoke bombs went off all around Kakashi, stopping him in the middle of his reading. Kakashi sighed as he put down his favorite book and got ready for Kiba to do it again. But something different took place. There was a hail of Senbon that cut through the thick smoke. It didn't hit Kakashi, but it was close. Hinata hit Kakashi again, so he jumped backwards to try to get out of the black smoke. So they're running things together. Good job. I'm happy, Kakashi thought as he ran out of the smoke. As soon as Kakashi got out of the black smoke, Naruto's chakra arms greeted him. He moved quickly between them, but it didn't help. He wasn't paying attention when Kiba and Akamaru tried to pierce him. The second spinning attack missed Kakashi, but one of Naruto's chakra arms caught him. He held Kakashi down while he took the bells with his arms. As Hinata smiled, she was glad that her plan had worked. Kiba and Akamaru both yelled and barked with happiness. "It looks like we've won, Kakashi-sensei," Naruto said as he let go of his sensei and rang the bells he was holding. Kakashi scratched his head. Taking a deep breath, Kakashi stood up and asked, "Yes, it looks like you have. Now, which one of you will fail?" Kiba and Akamaru stopped jumping for joy all of a sudden, and Hinata's smile went away. Hinata asked in a small, upset voice, "Why you mean one of us still fails?" She had hoped that all of them would do well. Kakashi gave a serious nod. For punishing them for beating him, he made up this test on his own. They all passed, but he wanted to see how well they worked together. Like everyone thought he would, Naruto cut the bells in half and threw one to Hinata. Hinata easily caught the bell, but she looked down at it with shame. She looked over at Kiba and Akamaru, who looked sad. They knew something like this could happen. Kakashi was proud to see Hinata offer the bell to Kiba as she walked over to her. "You deserve this more than I do. If it wasn't for your smoke bombs then Kakashi-sensei would have seen Naruto's chakra arms," she said. She knew that Naruto's ego was very weak, so he could have used his own smoke bombs and chakra arms to get the bells. That shocked Kiba. He looked at the bell, then at Hinata, and then back at the bell. He asked, "Are you sure, Hinata-chan?" Because he knew this was important. As Hinata nodded and thanked her firmly, he took the bell. Naruto threw his bell to Hinata out of the blue. Naruto stuffed his hands together to show that he wouldn't give the bell back. "And you need that bell more than I do. I can only imagine the hissy fit that Hiashi will throw if his daughter doesn't pass," he said. Hinata tried again, but Naruto wouldn't take it. He even let the bell fall from his chest to the ground. Then a tiny silver bell almost hit him in the head, but a chakra hand that appeared on the side of his head blocked it. Naruto looked over at Kiba and seemed confused. He asked himself if he really wanted to miss the chance to be with Hinata. The kitty kicked up some dirt. As Kiba sighed, he mentally cursed his instincts. "Don't look so shocked, you-tem. Inuzukas follow a pack ideal, and sometimes a member of the pack has to make a sacrifice." Kakashi smiled at his genin. "Congratulations. You all pass." There was no sound. "What?" Kiba yelled, and Naruto and Hinata looked as shocked as he sounded. Kakashi laughed. "Yes, you all pass. You actually all passed when you all started to work together, but I wanted to see how far you were willing to go for your new teammates." He smiled at them all. You all did excellent, and we have our first team meeting tomorrow morning. Kiba was once again jumping for joy because the shock had worn off. In a mean way, Naruto smiled at Hinata. He asked her, "Wanna go celebrate?" Hira spoke up. "Yeah, that's a great idea. Let's go get barbecue." This made Naruto frown. "You haven't been invited yet, Fido," Naruto said in a sour voice. He didn't like it when other people got in the way of his time with Hinata-chan. Not because he was romantically interested, but because he was happy with just the two of them since it had been that way for so long. Prior to Kiba's answer, Kakashi said, Now, play nice. But celebrating does sound nicea as your sensei, it'll be my treat." After that, Naruto's tone changed completely. He blocked out all thoughts of pain in favor of a free meal. Hinata thought that Naruto had just lost his wallet, so she said, "Well, what are we waiting for? Let's go eat." Naruto was happy. Naruto lost his mind and stared up at the ceiling. He didn't pay attention to the fan above him clicking. The drips from his faucet didn't bother him. He didn't care about how cold it was in the early morning. Naruto usually runs around the village or does one-finger push-ups at this time, just after 5 a.m., but he wasn't in the mood to work out. His mind was too busy coming up with a possible answer for the shadow clone jutsu that he just knew would work. He couldn't go any further. He was stuck on what could have been the reason he knew it. It didn't make sense. Naruto groaned as he stood up, but it wasn't because he was hurt, he just wanted to stay lying down. He walked slowly to the shower after putting his feet on the cold floor. He didn't even blink at how cold it was. Before getting into the hot shower, he took off the strange sleeping cap that looked like a dog and the matching pajamas that Hinata had bought for him. The shower was where Naruto thought the most. While the hot water rolled over his body, Naruto let out a happy sigh and thought about other things. Today would be his first practice with the team and a long overdue chat with Kakashi. Even though they tried to sneak away from Kiba, the dog seemed to have trouble staying in its place. Every time he and Kakashi snuck off to talk, he would yell out loud and try to catch them. He would yell, "There shouldn't be secrets in a pack." Even though Naruto told him to stop, Kiba wouldn't listen. Karashi said he tried to be there for Naruto when he was a child. Naruto wasn't sure how he felt about that. He liked that it had been just him and Hinata for years, with Iruka and the Hokage coming by every once in a while. Naruto may seem friendly, but he might be cold to people besides those three. He liked to joke around with other people, but he didn't trust them very much. No matter what Hinata tried, she couldn't get Naruto to talk about what had happened in the room. She thought that his time with the Uchiha was involved. At most, she would learn a small detail that he would share by accident, but it was still their only secret. I don't think Naruto knew what to expect when he finally talked to Kakashi. He let out another sigh and shook his head, which made water fly everywhere. He didn't know what to expect, so he didn't have any expectations. That's how his life worked. He was never let down if he didn't hope for anything. That's why he didn't think Hinata would feel the same way about him. She was the heiress to the most prestigious clan in Konoha. He, on the other hand, had no family and was looked down upon by everyone in the village. Life wasn't like a story. Sometimes things did end happily, and that was even worse for Shinobi. Once more, Naruto shook his head to get rid of the sad thoughts. He looked back at how his day was going to go. When team practice was over at 3, he planned to train Konohamaru and Hanabi for another hour and a half. Hinata would probably say no because Hanabi didn't want her to see her train when he asked her to go with him. He would either train some more or hang out with Hinata-chan after that. Naruto was excited about that. He turned off the water and gave himself another shake to get rid of the extra water. Then he used a towel to dry himself. He stopped by the barely fogged mirror on his way out of the bathroom. He quickly wiped off the fog and looked at the seal on his stomach. Now, he could see the seal all the time, not just when he was channeling chakra. In the few times they did talk, Kurama told him it was because they were friends. That being said, whatever they were, they made the seal always clear. As the Yondaime's last jutsu, the seal on his stomach was a work of art. There were 2 elephant seals on top of an 8 trigram seal, which is called the Kage seal method. These sealed Kurama inside him and stopped the demonic chakra from getting out. Naruto knew exactly what that part of the seal meant. All seals start with the basics, even the most complicated and hard ones. And he meant extremely. They were just different mixes of formulas and methods that led to different outcomes. One thing is different, though. There was writing across the middle of him, over his belly button and over the spirals of the seal. There was something added at the last minute that looked like it belonged because it was the same color as the rest of the seal. He had no idea what the fuck it did. Naruto had spent years trying to figure out this small formula, but in all the history of Fuinjutsu, there was nothing even remotely like it. It was even worse that Naruto couldn't figure out the basics of the formula. It was like it was written in a Fuinjutsu language that he didn't understand. It had nothing on it for him to find. Ought, bagatelle, blank, cipher, diddly, insignificance, not, nihility, nix, nothing, not, nullity, oblivion, scratch, shutout, trifle, void, wind, zero, zilch, zip, zippo, but nothing. Naruto scowled at the names that were written on him. He thought they were the answer, or at least a part of it. He had no idea how he knew, but it looked like the most likely bad guy. He let out a sigh. He had learned before that staring at the seal wouldn't let him in on its secret. Before he went to get dressed, Naruto quickly dried off. He looked at the time and saw that it was almost 7:30. He blinked in surprise. He had been showering for over 2 hours. He cursed to himself, then grabbed his gear, jumped out the window, and complained the whole way to the training ground that he had missed breakfast. With Hinata, Hinata was eating her rice at the family table in a strange way. She was having dinner with her dad and sister. And Hinata felt a pang of sadness as she looked over at the empty space next to her father. Since her mother died, her father had left the spot open, but no one else could take it. Hinata missed being with her mom. Everything about her mother was missed by Hinata. She missed the hugs, the smiles, and the time she took to help her learn new things. She thought there was no better one out there. But Hinata hasn't been sad about her mother's death in a long time. Death could not be avoided. Even though it was sad, everyone dies at some point. That's just how life works. Life, death, and birth. Hinata stopped being sad about her mother's death because she knew it was her mother's time. Did she wish she could have been with her longer? She did, of course. But she knew that everyone had a certain amount of time on Earth and that her mother's was up. But her father was still very sad about the death of his wife, her mother. Hinata didn't get how he dealt with losing his love, but she did understand his grief. Because he was having a hard time, she couldn't let him tear her family apart. Just because he didn't like weak people, she couldn't let him put Hanabi down, like he had done to her before. Even though her father praised her, Hinata had grown apart from him. Even more so than when he made fun of her. She could tell the praise wasn't giving Hanabi any real value when it hurt her confidence. Hinata now thought she was stupid to ever want her father's approval. He said in a monotone, "Hinata, I know you have first team practice today." Then he set down his empty rice bowl and a branch member took it. One of Hinata's cousins was being treated like a servant, but she didn't frown. Instead, she nodded. She said, "I know you'll show that you are worthy of being the Ga heiress," as if that were the highest compliment that could be given. While Hinata tried to stiffen her nod, she really felt insulted. She didn't think her family was very important. They made their family members slaves and were haughty and stupid. She was sure that her clan had a lot of potential, and she planned to use that potential when she was in charge of the clan. Hanabi blurted out, "I'm training with Naruto." She wanted even a little of the same approval that her sister got. Hiyashi nodded to show that he understood, but his face didn't change. As much as he didn't like Naruto, he knew that the Jinchuuriki had helped Hinata grow. "Good, maybe he can help you with the holes in your stances, and mind your manners. You are a main branch member. Act like one," Hiyashi said with a cold tone. He didn't like the idea of someone who wasn't a Ga helping his daughter use her gentle fist, but the results were good enough for him to not argue. Hinata went from being a failure to being one of the best Ga in many generations thanks to Naruto. He didn't really agree with the changes she made to the gentle fist, but he liked them more than the other option. As hard as he tried, Hinata would not give him the training method and the full style written down. She would only say that he would see when he retired and she became head of the clan, no matter how hard he tried. If everything went well, Hanabi would get the same training as Hinata, and she would let him know. Hanabi's eyes got brighter. Even though her dad's voice was cold, she could tell he liked what she said, which made her want more. She got up and picked up her empty bowl. "Father, I have to go to training," she told him. Then she turned to her sister. She smiled and said, "Naruto-kun told me to meet him at the training ground 7. I know you'll do great, Hana-chan." She hoped that her sister would take something away from her words of support. They didn't. Hanabi thought Hinata was making fun of her, so she glared at her sister and said, "Of course I'll do great. I'll do better than you, sister." Hanabi snapped, spitting out the last word with anger. Hinata wanted to cry because she felt like she couldn't even cheer up her little sister without making her feel silly, but she didn't. Before going to the training grounds, she pushed her anger down and went to the kitchen to put her bowl down. With Kiba was having breakfast with his family, just like Hinata. But there wasn't any awkward tension like there was with Hinata. That was changed to dogs barking and fighting between siblings. Hana laughed as she poured herself another bowl of cereal. "That Kakashi really kicked your ass. She found it on a mission a year ago and has eaten it every morning since then." Kiba's face had a tick mark on it. His denial, "He did not kick my ass," was backed up by Akumaru. Kiba couldn't come up with a reason for how badly Kakashi had treated him. "He just, he said, totally and completely destroyed you?" Hana asked, giving her little brother a wild grin as she watched him fall. She knew that Kiba probably couldn't touch Kakashi on his worst day, but she loved making fun of Kiba. Mostly because she liked seeing him get mad. It was incredibly funny. At the Inzunka clan house, it was never dull or quiet. Hana teased Kiba by responding to something he had said. "It sounds like you got your behind handed to you and the only reason you passed is because of Naruto." Kiba scowled at that. Kiba yelled angrily, "He just got lucky. I didn't need the Baka's help. Plus, I gave him my bell. That's why he passed." He knew it wasn't true. It was likely that they wouldn't have passed if it had been just him and Hinata, since he would have charged in and been knocked out. She would have been alone against a Junin after that. He knew Hinata could handle things on her own, but she probably wouldn't have made it through the long term. They weren't really needed by Naruto. After seeing what Kiba saw, Naruto could have gotten the bells on his own. Kiba was only a genin because Naruto gave him the bells and Hinata was nice to him. Soon spoke for the first time. "When it comes to your teammates, you never told us what you think of them, Kira." He scratched his head to think. He began, "Well, Hinata-chan," but stopped short as he blushed. Tsusumu and Hana both laughed at Kiba's thought process. Hana told her mother, "Mom means deeper than you think. Hinata's hot, idiot," and her mother agreed. Kiba was about to snap, but she held it in. It was easy for him to get mad at his sister and mother in the morning because he had done it before. Basically, she's really nice and a bit shy, but she has a pretty big ambition. She wants to get rid of most of her clan's traditions. She's already broken one of them when she used Senbon to take out Kakashi's leg. That was pretty cool, and I'm guessing that she has a few more tricks up her sleeve, Kiba said. With that information, Hana and Tsume had a completely different opinion of Hinata. The Hyugas and the Inuzukas didn't get along very well, even though they were often put on the same tracking teams. Because of how they treated their own family, the Inuzukas didn't like the Hyugas at all. Because they got it from their partners, Inuzukas believed in the pack ideal, and it made them sick to their stomachs that the Hyugas forced their branch members to work as slaves. The Hyugas didn't like the Inuzukas because they thought they were Neanderthals who worshipped dogs. It made them very happy that a Hyuga finally saw how bad their clan was and was going to do something about it. She also really likes cinnamon buns and smells like flowers, sweets, and Naruto, he said reluctantly about the last part. Even though it sounds really creepy, it was normal for an Inuzuka to smell someone. It's possible to learn just as much, if not more, about someone without talking to them. Iba turned red with anger as she saw Hana and Soom look at each other. Because he knew the look they were giving each other, he yelled, "Get your minds out of the gutter, pervs. We're 13. They just spend a lot of time together, that's all." Hana laughed. "I don't know Kiba, you're an adult now," Hana said in a sing-song voice, enjoying the way Kiba's face lit up with jealousy and anger. Kiba shook off the idea of Hinata and Naruto being together. "I told them, they're just friends." His family laughed at him, and then Soom asked, "What about the blonde? What do you think of him?" Kiba scowled at the thought of Naruto, especially since it came so soon after the image he had just seen in his mind. He sighed instead of getting mad. He began, "Naruto's an alpha," in a resigned voice. He knew there was no point in hiding the truth. When they told her, Hana's eyes got really big. Being an alpha in the Inuzuka clan was a big deal, even though it might not seem important at first. Their clan was set up with a pack hierarchy. Tusum is an example of alpha. Alphas are naturally strong and take charge of their packs. Hana and Kiba are an example of beta. Betas did the dirty work and followed their leader, which made Kiba mad. Finally, the Omega. They like to be alone and don't fit in with the pack. They're also not strong enough to make their own pack. If Naruto was naturally an alpha, then he was better at making decisions for the team than Kiba. Hana was shocked when Kiba joined because she knew how much Kiba wanted to be an alpha and how much he hated following orders and being a follower. "Really? Keep going, Kiba," Soom told him, now much more interested in what was being said. "I knew Naruto was holding back at the academy because I remember when he broke Sasuke Tem's arm, but I didn't know how much. Naruto probably didn't even need us there. He could have gotten the bells on his own with enough time. He's very protective of Hinata-chan," Hana laughed, remembering how Naruto put laxatives in Kiba's food to end their date. "He's a bit of a dick, but I guess that's because he doesn't have a pack of his own," Kiba said out loud, unable to think of a time when Naruto wasn't with Hinata. "He smells weird though. He smells like a fox, but he also smells like a bird. Like a hawk or something." That made Soom frown. She knew why Naruto smelled like a fox, but she couldn't think of a reason why he would smell like a bird. He shouldn't smell like any kind of bird unless he had one as a pet. She was thinking when Kiba yelled out loud, "Oh crap, I'm going to be late." He quickly ate his food and ran out the door. "Remember to talk to Kakashi about signing the dog summoning contract," Hana yelled at her little brother. "I'll remember," was the answer she got, and then the door slammed shut. On the field for training, everyone on the three new teams showed up at Training Ground 7 at the same time. Hinata and Naruto said hello to each other, and then Kiba and Naruto gave each other stiff nods, as if they weren't sure how to greet each other. Kiba because Naruto seems like an alpha. Naruto because, besides fights and pranks, he didn't spend much time with people of his own gender. As a group, they walked to the three training posts and sat down to wait for their sensei to show up. Every day, Naruto and Hinata would talk, but Hinata was upset from breakfast and didn't want to. Naruto knew that Hinata needed time to think about what to do, so he gave her space. Sadly, mornings like that happened all the time in the Hyuga home. Naruto didn't say anything because he was thinking about Kakashi, even though he tried to tune out the thought. As Kiba played with Akumaru, he didn't even notice that his team was quiet. They didn't have to wait hours for their sensei to show up like they did before. After some leaves swirled around, their masked sensei stood in front of them. "Yo," Kakashi said. In the past, Kakashi would have spent an hour or two at the KIA memorial telling Obito and Rin about his day and how he thought it would go. But today, he chose to do that earlier in the morning. So he didn't have to wait to talk to Naruto, which had been on his mind for a long time. It made Kiba blink in surprise. "You're on time today?" he asked, shocked, then his eyes got narrow in suspicion. If this was going to happen every day, he asked, "Are you going to use your stupid excuses again tomorrow?" He hoped it would be the former. There was a bit of anger in Kakashi's open eye. "My excuses aren't as bad as you think, and yes, I'll try to get there a little earlier," Kakashi said, knowing that he would lose sleep if he did. But it didn't matter much because he hadn't slept 8 hours in years. When Hinata heard that, her sad mood got a little better. It wasn't much, but she managed a small smile. Today I got a very rough idea of your skill levels, but they aren't complete, Kakashi began. He then turned and looked at Naruto and Hinata. Since both of you knew how to walk on water, I think it's safe to assume that you also know how to walk on trees, he asked. They both nodded. Kakashi looked at Kiba and asked the same thing with his eyes. Kiba said, "No, I've started it but I haven't made it past the halfway point yet." He felt a little insecure because he was already so far behind his teammates. Kakashi gave a nod. His question, "Hinata, could you use your Byakugan to help Kiba with the exercise?" was answered with a second nod. "While you two do that, Naruto and I will practice taijutsu elsewhere. That way we won't break your concentration," Kakashi said. Kiba agreed and went to the nearest tree because he thought Kakashi was telling the truth. Hinata quickly followed him, but she couldn't help but wonder why Sensei would make such bad excuses when he knew how to lie so well. After Kakashi waved Naruto to follow him, there was a heavy silence for a few minutes. They stopped moving when they got to a small opening in the forest. Kakashi broke the growing silence by saying, "So, I guess you have a few questions. I promise to answer them to the best of my ability." It was Naruto who spoke quietly. "Just a few." Even though he seemed calm, Naruto's eyes were darting all over the place, making sure they were alone and that Kakashi wasn't taking him somewhere to be killed. When Kakashi saw Naruto looking around, he wanted to sigh in exhaustion. He didn't fully trust him yet, it looks like Naruto. He tried not to sigh and waved for Naruto to ask his questions. Without meaning to, Naruto asked, "Who the hell are you and why do you seem so familiar?" He asked as if the idea of someone other than Hinata being nice to him was strange. When Kakashi remembered that it probably was, his heart hurt very badly. There was silence for a moment as Kakashi tried to figure out how to delicately tell the person the news. "Honestly, I was meant to be your older brother," he said. "Ease was for weak people." Naruto closed his eyes a few times. "Oh," was all Naruto could say because his brain was shutting down to process the bomb Kakashi had just dropped. Kakashi gave a nod. Kakashi went on, "We're not related by blood or marriage, but I would have liked being your older brother." Naruto looked blank as he spoke. He wasn't sure if that was a good or bad sign. He asked with anger in his voice, "If you were meant to be my brother, then why the hell am I just now hearing from you?" He didn't know Kakashi very well and when he said, "Hardly," he meant Ida, but the new information made him feel alone. It was strange because Naruto had only met Kakashi 3 days before, but he felt like he was trash. That made Naruto really angry. To Naruto's surprise, Kakashi tensed up, and the one eye that could be seen turned dark with anger. Kakashi said through clenched teeth, "I was told to stay away from you. The councils denied my every attempt to adopt you. I jumped through every fucking hoop they had and they still told me I couldn't look after you. They refused to let me take care of you like family should. When they told me that, I rejoined Anbu and got myself assigned to your Anbu protection squad." Naruto was shocked. "I should have told the councils to go fuck themselves. If I had adopted you like I wanted, then those Uchihas wouldn't have gotten their hands on you. Hell, if I had been your tail that day, then they wouldn't have touched you," Kakashi shouted. Naruto knew how to tell lies and wear masks. He had seen Kakashi's pure anger before, so he knew it was real. He was aware that the anger he felt toward himself was real. Naruto asked, "Why did they tell you to stay away?" He felt like he had lost a chance to live a different life. It might have been better if Hinata had been there. A voice from the forest spoke before Kakashi could answer. "Because my youthful rival would have killed everyone who looked at you in the wrong way." That voice, and there are only 2 people in the world who sound young. "Guy?" Naruto asked in shock. Man of Steel and Naruto met a few years ago while Naruto was training. Guy was dehydrated after crying for hours when he saw Naruto's Spirit of Youth, so he and Naruto sometimes trained together after Guy got out of the hospital. Unfortunately, that was the end of their relationship, even though Guy did try his best. "Hello my youthful prodigy. Get out of here, Guy," Kakashi growled, being aware of his friend's sneaky appearance. Guy did his famous pose and said, "No can do, Kakashi." What kind of rival would I be if I let you risk your neck like this? No time for Kakashi to answer. Naruto did it for him. Naruto demanded, what does he mean by you risking your neck? Why do you care so much? Why am I so important to you? His voice was angry now. Guy got a look from Kakashi that said, are you going to try to kill me before I answer that question? Guy hesitated, and his eyes told her, you can tell him to a certain point, but it's a secret, and you'll be punished by death if you push it. Guy gave Kakashi warning looks, but Kakashi said, after my father killed himself, your father helped me and became like a new father to me. Ike took a step back. My father. He began to speak with awe in his voice as he thought about his late sensei. Your father. He was a great man. He was terrifyingly powerful, kind, and loyal to a fault. He was also one of the most honorable men I have ever known. Minato was the kind of man he set out to be. He wasn't sure what to think about that. Naruto had an idea about who his father was, and Kakashi was giving him more proof to back up that idea. The scared look on Naruto's face was gone as he asked in a quiet voice, who was he? He was, Kakashi started, ready to tell Naruto who his father was no matter what. He was stopped before he could say the secret that would get him killed, though. Guy said, Kakashi, that's enough. His voice had lost its youthfulness, and taken on a harsh tone. Guy glared back at Kakashi, who did the same. Guy gave a small nod of the head, and Kakashi sighed. He knew that his longtime rival was right. Kakashi said, I'm sorry, Naruto. He meant it badly because he knew Guy was right, not because he liked it. Naruto yelled, why the hell won't you tell me? He was mad that he had just been teased with the chance to find out for sure who his father was. Kakashi spoke with a sour tone, that duty does not belong to me. Naruto, I want to tell you who your father was, but I can't. It's an SS-ranked secret, and I could go to T&I for telling you that much. Naruto took a swallow. He thought, more proof. His voice was still flat as he asked, if you can't tell me, then who can? He couldn't show them how nervous and eager he was. That part of him could only be seen by Hinata-chan. Kakashi replied, your godfather is Jiraiya of the Sannin. Jiraiya had lost Kakashi's respect when he put work ahead of his family. Naruto took a deep breath. At this point, his theory was almost impossible to argue with, but he pushed the thoughts away. Don't get upset, he thought to himself, I might still be wrong, even though he didn't believe it. Naruto took his mind off of his thoughts by asking Kakashi questions. He wanted to learn more about the man as a sensei and as the older brother he said he was. He started with simple questions like, where are you from? How old are you? What are your hobbies? And so on. Then he got more in-depth. Kakashi talked about himself like it was nothing, glad that his younger brother was paying attention. It was about his time in the academy, how he was the rookie of the year, and how he was the son of Kohona's White Fang. He told him how to make Chunin and then Junin when he was young. Which led to a long story about his last mission with his team and how his best friend gave him his Sharingan eye. He then began to talk about how he watched over him as an Anbu guard and how he almost killed the Anbu member who let two Uchihas grab him. In just 1 hour, Naruto learned a lot about Kakashi's sad life. Guy would sometimes speak up or stop Kakashi from talking too much, but most of the time he kept quiet. He was happy that his rival and friend could finally talk to his beloved little brother in person, and he didn't want to ruin the moment, for once. Naruto said, one last question, Kakashi-sensei, after a short pause to think about what he had just learned about the man. He was currently rethinking everything he had said. Kakashi gave a nod to show that he would answer if he could. You were the one who gave me the training scrolls, right? Kakashi laughed and rubbed the back of his head. He wasn't shocked that Naruto knew about him. Yeah, that was me. Thanks, Naruto said with a small smile. Those scrolls are what make me strong. Without them, I wouldn't be nearly as strong as I am now. Naruto wasn't quick to trust, but if half of what Kakashi said was true, he had earned it twice over. Naruto was sure it was true because Guy would be yelling at Kakashi for lying about how old he was if he did. That's why Naruto made Kakashi one of the few people he cared about. There was no way for Naruto to know that Kakashi had been treating him like a brother. Putting him at ease when he was a child, the scrolls show that Kakashi probably had something to do with how the teacher's plot ended. Though he didn't know Kakashi very well, he hoped to get to know her better. When Naruto added the suffix, Kakashi was shocked. He thought it would take a lot longer for Naruto to see him as a brother. After the shock wore off, Kakashi put on his famous eye smile. No problem, Naruto Antro. Guy was off to the side, crying and thinking to himself about how fun it is for young families to get together. Guy went back to his own team after he stopped crying. Kakashi and Naruto went back to Hinata and Kiba. Guy only thought Kakashi would be able to hold back from telling some SS-ranked secrets about Naruto, so he went there. The two of them walked back in silence, but it wasn't a heavy silence like before. Both of them were happy, so there was a nice silence. That Naruto liked Kakashi was something that could happen only once every few years. He even let him know a little about his parents. He learned that Kakashi had been there for him even longer than Hinata, which made him feel even better about his new friend. Even though the fact that his parents' names had been dangled in front of him made him angry, he didn't let that get him down. He only planned to find Jiraiya, make sure his theory was right, and then break every bone in his body for leaving him. When they got there, Kiba had already taken off to try again to learn how to walk through trees. He made it a little more than halfway before he swore out loud because he started to slip. Hinata looked a little annoyed, which made Naruto laugh. He thought Kiba had been stuck where they left him since they left. Hinata spoke to Kiba in a caring but stern voice, "You need to stay calm. Your chakra surges the moment you rise an inch." A tone she used on Naruto a lot, but it didn't sound as comfortable. Kiba said, sorry, and then he got up to try again, but he saw Naruto and Kakashi. "You two are done already. That was just a quick taijutsu lesson," he said, finding it hard to believe. He now believed Kakashi had lied to him and kept a secret from him and Hinata. "Naruto learns things quickly," Kakashi said with a shrug and the usual amount of effort he puts into being believable. Hinata looked at Naruto with interest instead of Kakashi. With his eyes, he told her, "I'll tell you later," as he smiled. Hinata showed that she understood by nodding. It made Kakashi miss the old times as he watched the small conversation. It's been a while since he saw two people who were so in sync. In spite of the fact that his sister and mother often kept secrets from him, Kiba yelled, "Liar! You two are keeping secrets from us. There's no secrets in a pack." Naruto said to Hinata, "I doubt that," in a bored voice. He wanted to argue, but he knew that Naruto wouldn't tell him unless he wanted to. It was the same with his sister. He turned around, let out a loud HMPH, and said, "Fine then. I didn't want to know anyway, you tem." Naruto made a face. He looked at Hinata and said, "Whatever." He said with a smirk, "I'm leaving now that my lesson is over. Tell Hanabi to be here around 4. In most cases, he would have stayed even though the day was over, but he needed some time alone to handle the news. After work, he was going to talk to Hinata about it, but right now he needed to be alone. Fear crossed Hinata's face for a moment. She recognized the smirk Naruto used when he was having a bad day, but it was gone, and she just nodded and said, "I will. Bye, Naruto-kun." Naruto said he'd tell her later, so she would have to wait. Naruto said goodbye with a wave and then vanished in a swirl of feathers. An original shunshin that he made a few years ago. With Hanabi. Hanabi skipped down to training ground 7 for the most part. She has every reason to be happy. She took a big step today to get out from under her sister's shadow. She knew Naruto might not want to train her as much as he trained Hinata, but she was set on showing him she was better than Hinata. But once she did that, Naruto would have to train her harder, and she would finally be better than her sister. Hanabi was very excited when she got to training ground 7. But her excitement burst when she saw a kid her age who looked like he was high by the training posts. She walked up to the boy and asked, "What are you doing here?" "My sensei and I have reserved this training ground. Leave," in a way that made it clear she was a Hyuga. Konohamaru's eyes got narrow. He snapped back, "Oi! You can't just tell me to leave. I'm here to train with boss." Hanabi took a laugh. "Stupid. I'm a Hyuga, I can tell you what to do. She yelled, making Konohamaru feel like he should get down on his knees and crawl away. The time for Konohamaru to laugh came up. He sneered and walked away, calling the people in the other group a bunch of Tems. As Hanabi raised her fist, a bunch of tick marks appeared on her forehead. Don't you dare insult my clan, peasant, she yelled as she hit Konohamaru over the head with her fist. Konohamaru hit the ground hard, but Hanabi didn't care. She had just hit someone. She hit the jerk. That was something new for her. She had always used her gentle fist style, so she never knew why to use her fists. Why did she do it now? Why did she hit the peasant with a closed fist as soon as she thought of it? She was thinking when she heard a loud laugh from behind her. She quickly turned around and saw Naruto. She said, "Naruto-sensei," with a happy tone of voice and then gave Konohamaru a short look. She said in a cold voice, "I was just dealing with this loser so we could start training." Konohamaru yelled at Naruto, "What are you calling an idiot, idiot? And what are you calling boss, sensei, for?" He glared at Hanabi and said, "Tell this pale-eyed weirdo to get out of here so we can train." Naruto laughed and thought, "It looks like I was right, this is going to be funny." He also needed it. Ever since Kakashi talked about his father, he couldn't stop wondering how likely it was that his father was the Yondaime. The Yondaime was a good man, so he wouldn't just grab a kid because they looked a lot alike. Kakashi told him that his father was very strong. The odds were almost against him at this point. But Naruto wouldn't jump to conclusions. He didn't want to think about the fact that he might be wrong. Because he didn't know what to do if his father was really the Yondaime, he always pushed the thoughts of his family history out of his mind. The other person, Konohamaru, looked like he was about to yell, "No." But Naruto turned to Hanabi and said, "Sorry, I won't do that. And you should stop being so mean to your training partner." There was no sound. Two students yelled, "What?" and then turned their heads to look at each other. One of them yelled, "Stop copying me," at the same time. But before they could yell at the other again, Naruto grabbed both of them by the shirt flaps. He said, "Didn't I just tell you to stop fighting?" Konohamaru asked his boss, "Why do I have to train with her?" "Shut up, weirdo," Hanabi yelled as she took another swing at Konohamaru. But Naruto moved them farther apart before she could hit him. Naruto did nothing but sigh as they continued to argue. The threat from Konohamaru, "You shut up or I'll tell my grandpa," made Hanabi roll her eyes. She laughed and asked, "What's your grandfather going to do? Drool on me?" When Konohamaru lunged at Hanabi, he yelled, "Your jerk grandfather is the Hokage." But Naruto kept them apart like he did before. Hanabi was shocked by that. His eyes got really big. The renowned Hokage's grandson was this loser, right? The shinobi's god, the teacher, the person who won the first two shinobi wars. The Hanabi Tsked. Then the Sarutobi clan has fallen dramatically, monkey boy. Naruto shook both of them before Konohamaru could answer. "That's enough fighting," he said in a major voice. They both said in a low voice, "Sorry boss, sensei." As he dropped off the kids, he said, "I'm training you two out of the goodness of my heart. If you don't listen to me, I'll tell you to hit the road. Now apologize." They both Tsked because their shoes were very interesting to them. "I'm sorry," they all said at the same time, but it wasn't even close to being sincere. He put his hands on his hips and sighed again. "It's a start at least. Now, give me 10,000 push-ups," he told me. One of the kids looked at Naruto with wide eyes. He frantically waved his arms up and down and said, "Are you crazy, boss? We can't do 10,000 push-ups. We'd die." Hanabi agreed and nodded. The voice of Naruto asked, "You can't?" He crossed his arms and said, "That blows up what I had planned for today, okay. Get into push-up position then you wimps." Naruto made a few changes with his feet after they did what he said, but when he was happy, he said, "Begin, and don't stop until I tell you to." He watched them do the same thing over and over again. He got bored quickly, so he let his mind wander. Naruto began to think about many things, including what he and Hinata would do next, the possible news that he had an older brother, and finally, how he would react if his suspicions were proven. Naruto didn't hate the Yondaime even though he knew he should. He knew that as Hokage, he had to put the village ahead of everything else, even his family and friends. The Hokage had to love the village more than their own lives, and to keep the village safe, they sometimes had to give up their own lives. Naruto was one of those people who died. Naruto didn't think the Yondaime liked being forced to hold Kurama inside him, and he thinks he didn't want to either. There were just no other choices. There was no hate between them. The only thing he wanted to do was keep the village he loved safe, and Naruto had to die to do that. He didn't like being picked, but Naruto knew what he meant. Naruto would do a lot of crazy things to keep Hinata safe and happy. Sealing a tailed beast inside a child had nothing on those things. Naruto didn't know if he could forgive the man because he was a father. Naruto wasn't sure if he could forgive his hero. The Yellow Flash was the hero of the Third Shinobi War and the only person who has ever been given a flee on sight order. He was so powerful that when Konoha told everyone that he killed an unkillable beast, everyone believed him. He also swore that the biggest animal with tails would live inside his son when he was born. The person who gave up his own body to protect a group of stupid people who are afraid of and hate everything they don't understand. That's what Naruto didn't think he could forgive, so whenever he thought about the man who might have been his father, he pushed those thoughts and feelings away. Naruto didn't want to dislike the person he had worked so hard to beat for so long. So Naruto hid how he felt before he knew what they were. Naruto didn't know what they were and almost hoped he never did. They could be forgiveness or hatred that would never end. In a moment of weakness, Naruto asked Kakashi to tell him. The temptation was too great, and he gave in to his curiosity. As Konohamaru loudly fell to the ground, unable to continue, Naruto's attention was brought back to the present. After a second, Hanabi did the same thing. Naruto ridiculed her and asked, "Fa, you're already done. How many was that?" The kids were both huffing and massaging their hurt arms. Konohamaru yelled, "I did 64. And gave Hanabi a mean look. Hanabi looked embarrassed for a moment before turning away. 62, she said with her teeth clenched. I can't even beat Monkey Boy at push-ups. No wonder Dad thinks I'm a lost cause. She felt ashamed and thought this in her head. Naruto said as he cleaned his ear with his pinky, "Wow. You both really stink." "We don't stink, and I did more push-ups than she did." Konohamaru yelled as he jumped up and pointed at Hanabi. He forgot how tired he was. Naruto sat up. "You do too suck and you're forgetting that on average women have less brute strength than men do. So technically, she did like 10 more push-ups than you. Not that it really matters, you both still suck something fierce," he said in a bored voice as he crossed his hands. Before she had a thought, Hanabi smiled cockily at Konohamaru. "How many push-ups could you do when you were our age, sensei?" Naruto looked like he was thinking about it. "With weights, a couple thousand. Without, 15,000 or so. Quote. 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 What? That can't be true," Konohamaru yelled. There was just no way. Even though Boss was tough, what he said had to be false. It hurt Naruto when he heard the sudden loud noise. "It is too. My body heals no matter what I put it through. Doesn't matter if it's a sprained ankle, broken wrist, or a missing arm, my body will always heal sooner or later. Because of that I could train myself harder than you can imagine," he said. The hard training was nothing. The fastest way for Hanabi to beat Hinata would be to learn from Naruto. "Naruto-sensei, do you think you could train us like you did yourself?" "Yeah, boss. Make us strong like you." "Absolutely not," Naruto growled, his tone suddenly serious. When he stepped back, Hanabi couldn't help but notice that Naruto looked a lot like her father. But Naruto looked a lot scarier now. Konohamaru let out a shaky gasp because his boss had suddenly changed into someone completely different. It was hard for him to say, "Why not be boss?" He said in a serious voice, "If I put you through the training Hinata-chan and I did, you'd both die before the day was over." Hanabi felt something about that. "If my sister can do it, then I can too. Train me like you did her. She told me she could do it too if Hinata could." His heavy eyes fell on Hanabi, and she fought the urge to fall to the ground and curl up into a ball. Someone had just put heavy weights on her chest and shoulders and set them to full strength. Is this just stress from being around him? Who is this guy? Hanabi thought in fear as the air around her suddenly ran out. Naruto said, I told you no. You'll die, in a strong voice that made him sound like the Hokage when he was serious. She clenched her teeth and hands. She didn't mean for this to go this way. Naruto was supposed to notice that she was better than her sister and train her in a way that showed it. Her plan wasn't going to work. In a voice that only nobles who weren't getting what they wanted could use, she roared, then why did Hinata survive? I'm better than her. I can do it. Konohamaru took a big bite of Hanabi. He didn't want to yell at boss because he was scared right now. That being said, he did agree that Hanabi was brave to stand up to Naruto. She might have been pretty cool for a girl. Naruto put his hands on his sides and said, because the two of you lack resolve. He felt bad that what he said scared the two kids so much that they looked like they were going to wet themselves. If they tried to follow his training plan, they had almost no chance of lasting more than a day and staying alive. Some people might have thought he was lying, but he wasn't. Naruto expected the people who trained with him to go beyond what they thought they could do. There was no drive in these two to push themselves and keep going. That would either kill them or hurt them badly. Hanabi took a defiant stance and said, I have resolve. She wasn't going to stay in her sister's shadow any longer. Naruto sat up. Naruto said in an arrogant voice, yes, you are determined, but it's pathetic. It's like glass. Easy to break. She clenched her fists so hard that they bled. Her voice was angry. You don't know anything about my resolve. Her teacher sighed. Naruto said in a lazy voice, you want to beat Hinata-chan and earn your father's approval. Konohamaru took a deep breath. And you want to prove to the village that you're not the honorable grandson but your own man. Not the worst motivation, but it's still weak. Before either of them could explain why they did what they did, Naruto let out a loud sigh and reached into his pocket. He said, man, this isn't nearly as funny as I thought it would be, and then he pulled out a small green scroll. He found the same one on his kitchen counter a long time ago. I had a feeling something like this would happen. He threw the small green to Hanabi, who looked at him and the scroll with surprise and interest. What's this, Naruto-sensei? It's a scroll, he deadpanned in a playful way, changing his personality again in a big way. He let out a small laugh when he saw there, we can see that, looks before going on to explain more. I can't be here every day to train you too, so in that scroll is your schedule. I don't expect you to be able to do all of what it tells to do, but do as much as you can. Then you try to do more tomorrow and so on, understood? He explained and got nods from the two. Okay. I'm going to spend time with Hinata-chan. Please don't kill each other. I don't need the headache, he said as he turned to leave. He stopped all of a sudden. Naruto said in a wise voice, and since I'm in a good mood, I'll give you a hint about how to strengthen your resolves. A selfish resolve is a weak resolve. He then disappeared in a swirl of feathers. The two of them looked at each other and thought the same thing. If being selfish is the weakest, then what is the strongest? With Hinata, Lord Byakuya is coming next week with his son. Akira wants to spend some time with you, Hiyashi told his oldest daughter at dinner. They were the only ones there because Hanabi was training. When her father spoke, Hinata almost gave in to the urge to groan and hit her face on the table over and over again. Even though she didn't like her clan's traditions, the one thing she hated most about being a noble was how noble women were married off like cattle to make ties with other noble families stronger. It was very rare for a noble woman to get married for love. Their families put them up for auction to make money and forced them into marriages they didn't love in order to boost their status. When she was 10, one of her friends from the main branch got married to a fat, rich store owner. Last year, that girl killed herself. Hinata was no different when it came to politics. Her dad was better than most. If she said she didn't want to go on dates with her suitors, he wouldn't push her to marry a certain man or make her go on a lot of dates with them. He made her go on dates with a lot of different men, though, in the hopes that one of them would catch her eye. He wouldn't listen when she told him she wasn't interested in anyone else. He still made her hang out with the shady nobles because if they didn't, it would be bad for the Hyuga's reputation. That being said, she was glad that her father sent the suitors to her instead of Hanabi. That way, politics wouldn't be able to mess up Hanabi. She hated politics so much. I see, she said in response. She was now thinking about how Naruto could help her get out of this situation. Hiyashi gave a nod. I will have a dress prepared for you according to what the date will entail. I know I do not have to say this, but I expect you to behave befitting of a Hyuga heiress, Hiyashi said in a tone that was cold. As she did so, Hinata hoped that the conversation would end quickly so that she could go meet Naruto-kun. And since high school, they hadn't had a chance to spend time together. So he took her to do something fun. Due to a certain outside influence, I will be assigning a guard to make sure you two are both undisturbed, and they will be given permission to use deadly force, Hiyashi ended, watching as his daughter's face went through a rapid succession of emotions. There was shock, anger, outrage, disappointment, and then a blank mask. He was proud that his daughter had almost learned how to control her feelings, even though he didn't like the ones he saw. Hiyashi spoke in a harsh voice, I know this makes you unhappy, but as heiress, it is your duty to the clan. You will put your feelings aside and do what is expected of you. Hinata gave a stiff nod. She had to carry this load to protect her little sister, who hated her very much. The world was really mean. Hiyashi said, good, and then he got up and left the room. Hyuga, the servant, heard a loud snap as she went to pick up the dishes that the clan head had left behind. In shock, she looked over and saw that Hinata had broken her chopsticks while angry tears burned her eyes. She said in a whisper, I hate that man, and the servant heard her. She put down the dishes and put a gentle hand on the girl who was shaking because she felt brave. She said with a smile, if I may, Hinata-sama, you are just mad right now. We both know your blonde knight will save you. Before smiling at Hyuga, Hinata wiped away the tears that were starting to form on her cheek. You think so? Of course Hinata-sama, Naruto-san is as stubborn as a mule and harder to move than a mountain. He won't let some pesky guard get in the way of his princess. She said with a small grin. She was making fun of both of them because they both had no idea that the other was clearly interested in them. Hinata changed its color to a bad shade of red. As she fell to the ground, she could only say, Princess. You think? Before she passed out. After a few hours, if you looked down, you could see that the sun was going down behind the Yondaime. It was where they always met and their favorite place to be. They both chose to focus on the good memories, even though the place brought back bad memories. This is where Hinata first stood up for herself and where Naruto met his first real friend. Where are you, Naruto-kun? She asked in a low voice as two hands covered her eyes. When he whispered, right here, Hinata-chan, he made a funny sounding grin. As Hinata hit the hands away, she couldn't help but smile. Naruto laughed quickly. He asked in a joking way, can you guess what I brought? As he walked backwards to the bench at the top of the hill. Cinnamon buns, she asked, hoping that the sweet treat would make her forget all about her problems for the day. Nope, Hinata's hopes were dashed. She didn't care if it wasn't a cinnamon bun. When Naruto saw Hinata's sad face, he laughed. He waved his hands in front of Hinata's wide-open smile and said, sorry, the bakery was out. I know you don't like the store brand kind that much, so I got. Out of the blue, a gallon tub of vanilla ice cream and 2 spoons showed up in his hands. Hinata was thrilled to see the magic show. It crossed her mind to use her Byakugan to watch him do it, but she chose not to. She did not want to ruin the mystery she liked. Naruto smiled at his friend and heard her lightly clap. The two of them walked over to the bench and soon were scooping up ice cream. As Hinata ate her favorite flavor of ice cream, she asked, how did Hanabi do today? Naruto said in a casual voice as he took another scoop, I don't know. I left them my first scroll after I insulted their weak resolves. Hinata gave a sad nod. She asked, do you think that will work? So she knew Naruto had a reason for making fun of her sister's determination to beat her. She had full faith in Naruto and knew he would never do something like that without a good reason. Naruto looked like he was thinking about it. I think so. If she finally realizes that surpassing you is a stupid goal, hopefully she'll finally figure out how much you love her and what you do to protect her, he said with a wink. Hinata also sighed. She hoped that this would finally help her family get along again. You're sighing a lot more than usual, Naruto said. Something upset you, he said with a glint in his eye that meant the person who did it would be in pain for years to come. Hinata tried not to sigh again as she talked about how her dad was making her feel more obligated to keep the dates. The part where she almost broke down crying was left out, but she knew Naruto already knew that, so she didn't say it. When Naruto suddenly lost his appetite for the almost empty container, his heart clenched in pain. Because of two things, he wouldn't go to the Hyuga compound and rip Hiyashi's head off his behind. First, Hinata told him he couldn't do it after he almost did it when she told him about the first date. He also knew that he couldn't really change Hinata's love life. They were just friends, no matter what he wanted. He did get in the way of her dates, but she didn't like them, so that's why. She was going to ask him to not get in the way of a date at some point. That's when Hinata started to focus on her fiancé copyright more than him. The person he cared about most would slowly forget about him. Putting him away like an old toy, his parts would wear out over time until he broke like all other toys. It would be his duty to protect Hinata even if it meant becoming her broken toy. As long as it made her happy. He would go through pain alone for all time if it meant Hinata would always be happy. Hinata saw that her friend's mood changed quickly. She looked at Naruto-kun with worried eyes and asked, "What's wrong?" Naruto immediately put on his usual cocky smile to hide how sad he was. "It's nothing, Hinata-chan. Just thinking how I'ma bail you out." He told the truth. Hinata made a small frown. He lied to her very rarely, and she always knew when he did. She was about to ask him what was wrong, but his eyes seemed to be begging her not to. Hinata wanted to sigh again, but she didn't because she cared about her friend's privacy. "I'm sure it will be complicated and funny. By the way, you never told me what Kakashi-sensei wanted to talk to you about." She changed the subject because she thought Naruto was upset about the first subject. She didn't know why it would, though. Naruto said in a casual voice as he looked up, "Not much. He's my unofficial older brother and has looked out for me since birth. Oh, and he gave us the scrolls." 3, 2, 1. To herself, Hinata yelled out loud, "What?" She added, "How did you not lead with that?" And then lightly poked him in the shoulder. "Why didn't you say something earlier? That's way more important than my father trying to set me up with some noble." He rubbed his shoulder and shrugged. There was no need for him to say it out loud. Hinata's problems always came first to him. He said in a weak voice, "I dunno. I guess I lost my mind," as he put his arms behind his head to support his still down head. Hinata's eyes got softer, and she looked very sad. It was times like these when Naruto made her mad. She was glad that he always put her first, but she wished he would do the same for himself every once in a while. She felt like a bad friend because he had just heard some terrible news that would change his life, but he kept it from her so she could complain about her broken family. Like he did for her, she tried to be a friend who helped, but when he wouldn't tell her about his problems, she felt like she was taking advantage of him. He did everything for her, but she didn't do much for him in return. Naruto's voice picked her up from her sad thoughts and said, "It's almost time." As the sun began to go down below the village wall, Hinata turned her attention to the village. As they started to count down, Hinata and Naruto smiled at each other. 5 inches Naruto began. 4 inches Hinata went on. 3, 2, while Naruto was saying the last number, 1. The sun went down below the village wall at the exact same time. The village fell into a moment of darkness. When Naruto and Hinata jumped up from their seats and yelled, "Banzai!" The ice cream and spoons flew everywhere. As the sun went down, the village lit up again with a beautiful mix of colors as soon as they said the word. Hinata and Naruto laughed together and smiled at each other like fools. Then they sat down again and talked about what Kakashi and Naruto had said. They sat down, though, a little closer than they were standing. They didn't care either way.
I will continue the story in next part. Till then, we weeb offline.